That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our movie memoirs. All right, October 2021, Dragon. It's been quite a journey for movie memoirs. We started out 2019 was the first year we officially did it, right?
That sounds right. I know we definitely did this 2020 onwards. I think going back to at least 20. It has to be 2019. Yeah.
2019, as you know, Dragon, as you remember, it was a year that kind of like ended out the decade on a real high note. And so it was a great first year to start doing memoirs. 2020 happened.
Yeah.
And we don't want to talk about that. That was a challenge for all of us.
Yeah.
But Dragon, this is the first month since 2019 that I can clearly say, like, oh my God, like there was so much good stuff this month. Not necessarily from a catch-up perspective, I'll admit. Like, my catch-up was a little bit light this month. But on the TV side of things, and specifically on the movie side of things, Dragon, oh my God, these last 2 weeks have felt like Christmas for me as a film fan. So let's get right into it. We've got a lot to get to. Start off with the news.
Okay, well, here's something before we get into the news. Happy Dias de los Muertos, everyone.
Oh, yes, of course.
All right, now we can go on with the news.
All right. So, Dragon, of course, I don't really want to spend a ton of time on this, man, because I feel like it's been covered a lot. But we have to just at least acknowledge the situation with Alec Baldwin and Rust. Dragon, do you want to give the details on it?
Yeah, to keep keep to the simple stuff. Utter tragedy has befallen the set of Rust. Alec Baldwin, he's a producer on the film. He's also, I believe, the actor, if not the heavy. He's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be the good guy or the bad guy in the movie, but essentially, it's a western. You know, we have gunslingers.
Dragon, this isn't past tense. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but Alec Baldwin really, like, he's pretty adamant about not wanting to continue the movie at all.
Well, I mean, chances are it's probably what's going to happen. I wouldn't be. I hadn't heard anything official, but I know that things have not been going well with all this stuff on the Rust set. So I would not be surprised. Essentially, what happened is there was a scene where, again, new details keep coming out, but as far as I've heard, they got a prop gun. I assume they were lining up a shot or something, and basically, when we went to fire, there was a live round in there. So just to clarify, it was not identical to the Brandon Lee thing. It's a similar tragedy like the Brandon Lee thing, but essentially, it was someone was very irresponsible, left an actual round in there that basically killed the poor cinematographer, and the same bullet then hit the director that was behind said cinematographer. So the director, I don't know how critical the director is. In terms of like the wound, but I know it's not a happy affair, and the poor cinematographer is no longer with us. So, as you can imagine, Alec Baldwin, he's very affected by what's happened, and I believe
there's no way around this. This is going to shape Alec Baldwin for the rest of his life. I mean, it's almost haunting to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I've heard of kind of a famous person going through something kind of similar to this would be probably John Landis.
That's very much what it reminds me of. Yeah.
It's the closest kind of comparison I have outside, perhaps what happened on the Crow set with whoever the prop guy was on that. That's it's probably the next best comparison I could find you. But yeah, so basically the industry, they've been very much this tragedy has brought into light. We gotta, guys, we can't chance it anymore. We gotta the prop guns now, they gotta be like if they load on a clip, it's gotta be like a different shot, and it's gotta be like nothing can actually be loaded in these guns. We're gonna have to CG it in afterwards. I don't know what the John Wick movies are going to do, but there are many ways that as John Wick has taught us, there's many ways Keanu Reeves can kill people. So, we don't have to worry about the gun fu necessarily on that, because there's only so much times you can CG something before it starts to lose its luster. But all the other sets, like the set of The Boys, which ironically, Jensen Ackles.
Like there's a Batman analogy to make here, but I'm not eloquent enough to make it.
Right. Yeah. Well, Jensen Ackles, he was on the set of Rust. He plays a character in the movie, and I don't know if it was maybe. I like to think maybe it was a bit of a protective instinct. Eric Kripke, who runs the boys, who did Supernatural,
Uh-huh.
he's very much said, okay, yeah, no more live. Not that they use live rounds, but we're going to be like we're making it even safer, much like the new industry standard is. So people are taking care, and it's just that's good. It's the shame it took us this point to get there. You think we learn, but sometimes I heard that there was that someone was like doing target practice off to the side like the night before, and they forgot to clear the gun
Oh my
probably. And I
God.
heard there was
Yeah.
like corners being cut. It's unclear all the details that are coming out, but all I know is it's a
I also
tragedy.
heard that this was not an isolated incident of corners being cut on the set.
Yeah. I heard there was a walkout, and that didn't help things in terms of like, well, people have walked out, then we can't necessarily get those people back to do the safety checks, and well,
And let me be
yeah.
clear, Dragon, I don't fucking want this movie to be made.
I mean, at this point, I mean, one thing though, if it did come out, everyone would see it, but that's for the wrong reasons,
I don't know
unfortunately.
if I would. Honestly, like Westerns aren't really my thing to begin with, and this just has such a weird shadow over it. I mean, if anything, I feel like this is going to make a future, like a really fascinating true crime documentary or something like that. But I'd look into that. But I don't know if I'm interested in seeing the film itself if it ever does come to fruition.
Yep, and again, traditionally, folks, we start off with the worst news and work our way back, and so rarely have I think it's the first time ever have we not just started
Yeah,
with
this is
the passings. This
unprecedented
is
because it's like because of course there is a death involved, but I feel like this is a situation where it's like the one death kind of like there's such a ripple effect to this.
Yeah, I mean, usually we have like passings that just kind of occur naturally or through like kind of a bout of sickness or something. This is the first where it was rather instantaneous and tragic.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a bummer for sure. So let's talk more bad news while we're at it.
God. Dragon, the funny thing is, the deaths aren't even the only thing that's like really, really bad news this month.
Yeah, it's yeah, we had a lot of news, folks. We had to cap it off at a certain point, but
Yeah.
still, all that said, a lot of bad news to start us off. It's gonna be a while before we start looking at the other end of the tunnel on this
Okay,
one.
let's just go through it.
Okay, all right. So we
So
lost
Jack
three.
Angel Dragon, I looked into this guy and it's like, I don't know, I don't really feel like I'm familiar with much of his work, I got to admit. He's a voice actor. He's like been around, like it feels like he's a guy who's very much like the voice actor equivalent of a character actor, where it's like he
Yeah.
doesn't really have very many substantial roles, but he's like in everything.
Well, let me put it this way, Tiki. So often do we use this term without using it technically correct. The term journeyman. Journeyman means someone who's kind of like does, consistent work. Like kind of in through the industry of like, okay, well, yeah, this person we know what he does. That is a journeyman versus just like it's like a career best. Like what, not in the limelight, but still just trucking on through. And that's Jack Angel for you. I'm not saying he
Uh-huh.
doesn't do a good job, but just the fact that Jack Angel's been in the background of many of the things that we love in the additional voices section of many animated
Right,
films.
yeah.
And not to say he hasn't done the characters. That's what I'm saying. Like, Jack Angel is like one of the unsung heroes of the voice acting community. Jack Angel, he's always there, but he's always in the background. So you have like the one I know him from. Again, with the whole journeyman things, the biggest one I knew him from first was Rocky Gibraltar in Toy Story. He is the wrestler figure in Andy's room. Okay, do you remember? Okay, remember when we're doing the big chase in the third act of Toy Story on the moving
Mhm.
van? Remember, like when Bo Peep says, "Rocky, get it!" Like Rocky, like lower the platform. That's Rocky.
Yeah, honestly, Dragon, I cannot remember the voice off the top of my head. I'm just going to be
That's what I'm
honest
saying.
with
He
you,
doesn't have
but
many
yeah.
lines in that either, but still, it's like, oh yeah,
Uh,
because he's like the one toy you can't place in Andy's room, and that's him. That's why I
sure,
always
sure, yeah.
that was the thing that always made me curious about this guy and looking into him.
I
That's
feel
how
like
I've always
that role was
known.
like very appropriate for his career as a whole.
That's
I
what I'm
don't
saying. I've
mean that in a
always
bad way.
I have always known this guy because that character's like, who is that guy? So beyond that, for example, he's in some of the other greats. In Iron Giant, he is he's doing the spiel for the little duck and cover drill that's playing in the classroom when
Mm,
Hogarth's there. He
mm.
he does like the whole like and the squirrel, the anthropomorphic squirrel, ducks under the beaver, ducks under the desk, duck and cover.
I feel like that whole thing kind of set the tone for like the fallout series, like their
Yeah,
animated things.
no, for sure. I mean, yeah, that's sort of. I mean, it's a real life thing. The '50s had
Yeah, yeah.
that going all over. I mean, biggest role I know him from outside. And the biggest thing I'd probably cite for him is he was Nick Fury in like the one episode Nick Fury appears in Spider-Man the Animated Series.
I saw that listed on the wiki, and I was like, oh yeah, I bet that's a big thing for Dragon.
Yep, you got that, and you have it's the Chameleon episode. And one little thing, in terms of he's doing voices like in the ancillary stuff, like he's like one of the many monsters in Monsters Inc. But I think one of the most sweetest thing is that hey, been in all the Toy Story movies. In that he he's in Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, and they brought him back for Chunk in Toy Story 3. And I'm sure he was someone in Toy Story 4. I'm saying those are the ones that come to mind. We gave him a bigger role in Toy Story 3 with Chunk, one of Lotso's gang.
Remind me which one that is.
Yeah, Chunk's the one with like he's a little sandy rock. He's a little kind of the brownish kind of sand rock looking guy who when he hits his head, his face twirls and changes. Like the muscle, you had Twist, you had Twitch, and you had Chunk. Says that Lightyear guy. He's not the most. He's not the sharpest thing where you put the sharp things.
Again, these are very obscure characters.
Yeah. So yeah, Jack Angel, and of course. I'm sure the G.I. Joe and the Transformers crowd will know him much better than I in terms of his voice roles. But he's been all over the place through many of the iconic landmarks in animation, but in the background. This next guy, though, not so much in the background.
Yeah, so I'm going to go straight to Wicket on this because to me, he is like probably the most memorable interpretation of the Wizard of Oz. Because he basically plays the Wizard of Oz like a sleazy used car salesman, which is freaking perfect.
Yeah. So Peter Scolari, by the way, we should say the man's name before we,
Sorry.
Yeah, it's Peter Scolari. Now you and I know him from something very recently, actually.
Oh, what is it?
Not super recent. I'm just saying going back probably like 5 years, but extensively. He's Commissioner Loeb in Gotham.
Right. I thought it was Gotham. Yeah.
Of course, I always loved, that I loved like you kind of giving Gordon this arch enemy and like in terms of the corruption he's going up against and making it Commissioner Loeb, and Scolari played that role very well. It's not the first Batman role that he's played. He was in the animated series and the DCAU and some bit parts. Like oddly enough. He was in the animated series a couple times in some of the worst episodes, oddly enough. He was in Moon of the Wolf remember John Hamner? Remember like the whole gag about the John Hamm thing? So John Hamner and he's the shark in the Terrible Trio. Two of my least favorite episodes.
The Terrible Trio in particular. Oh,
I know.
I hate you.
That's what I'm saying. Like the least. But again,
honestly, the Terrible Trio might be my least favorite. Like looking back on.
That's the thing. It's between Moon the Wolf and Terrible Trio. Those two are my least favorites. All right. Let's see, of course, but the big role everyone's mother knows him for. Bosom Buddies. He was part of the show that made Tom Hanks a household name.
I have not. I don't think I've ever seen a single episode of that.
Yeah, well, our Bosom Buddies
admit.
Tom Hanks, he started, if I recall, he started as a TV hit before he started doing the movies Big and everything. They then caught fire and became, kind of made him, the American actor, so to speak. You had
also happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yep.
Upcoming, of course.
One could say happy Thanksgiving. So yeah. And let's see. Oh yeah, he was on that show with Mike Poulter. He was on Evil. He played the Bishop, and he's the boss of Mike Poulter in that show.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. Like I'm sure he's good in that show, but god damn, that's still like I can't get over how generic of a title that show is.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I really want to. I hear the second season's even better than the first, but I can't watch because now it's on Paramount Plus, and it irks me to no end.
Oh, I'm actually happy with my Paramount Plus subscription right
now. I know. I'm envious. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I haven't had Hulu for a while, but Paramount Plus has been keeping me coming back.
I'm sure it does. You have Frasier, right?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
I know Frasier's on Hulu
for Survivor, honestly, but
I mean, the reboot.
Survivor and Nicktoons. Nicktoons is another big one.
I mean, the reboot's coming to I guess you call it a reboot. The reboot's coming. To Paramount Plus, so I'd imagine the original would be on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay, so let's see. So then we have James Michael Tyler, someone I believe you would like to say a few words about.
Yeah, Gunther, man. I don't want to. It always sucks when you have to pare an actor down to a single character, but Dragon, this dude just owned that character, man. It's like, I don't know. Again,
I mean, hey,
I've always.
When Kevin Conroy leaves this mortal coil, you know who they're going to pair him with. So it's not the end of the world to be paired with one iconic character. It's not the end of the world by any stretch.
Of course, sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, Gunther is no Batman, though. Dragon, to be honest, I love.
Well,
Gunther.
depends if you ask the friend.
But...
If you ask the Friends fans, though, I think the diehards, they're gonna say, "There's honestly, even me."
No, honestly, as a diehard Friends fan, I'm going to say this as like a cheesy newspaper headline. It feels like we just lost a friend. And in all seriousness, though, that's kind of how it reads. Like, oh no, not Gunther.
I was truly shocked when I saw that he passed because believe me, I've seen all of Friends. So, I mean, I know Gunther very well in terms of that show, and I also know the big thing. One of the things I thought was most memorable about James McAvoy, he was very close with the fan base. Like some people did, like now.
Yeah, that's one thing I also remember about him for sure. Yeah.
One thing's it's kind of common nowadays. You have these pop-up like recreation kind of places like the Scum and Villainy Cantina just kind of found a way and found a loophole to keep on going. So it's not just a pop-up, but like the movies pop-ups and everything that people have done Central Perks. And before it was like a common thing, there was like a regular Central Perk or at least a Central Perk-esque place. And they would ask him to dedicate it constantly. He'd come down. He loved doing
that's
it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's the thing. They had Gunther in the place and probably served him.
I mean, like I said, man, he just fit the role like a glove.
That he did. And
it's a perfect example of a character that just started out as just like a background gag, and then like by the end of the show, he's like easily one of the biggest fan favorites. Like probably a more likable character, if I'm being honest, by the end of the show's run than most of the main characters.
So the odd parallel I feel there is with Gunther is that you have he was like the secret romantic rival of Ross.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Really was no competition, but I think the character most people would compare to Gunther would be Toby from The Office, and because there are similarities, and it's the fact that there's he's lusting after Pam, but it's never going to go anywhere, and there's a little bit of that there. So I think that Gunther definitely Toby. Everyone and their mother knows Toby from The Office. And the guy that Michael Scott hates. Yeah, the HR guy, right? Just the normal guy that's just doing his job, doing it competently. So Gunther kind of in a similar vein. Like he'll look past all of Rachel's faults because he's head over heels in love with her, much like the nation is with Jennifer Aniston.
Okay, gonna block that comment. Jesus Christ.
Anyway, what was
user? All right.
What was I going to say? Oh, right. I found out something about James Michael Tyler before we move on. Something really sad.
Yeah, go ahead.
I found out why he wasn't majorly featured in the Friends reunion. He had an awful bout with prostate cancer, and he was wheelchair bound at the time. So that's why he physically wasn't there. He's trying to keep it on the down low. So I believe if I recall, it's been a while since I've seen it because it's nowhere near as good as the Fresh Prince reunion. I believe he was probably like a video call sort of thing, briefly, if anything. So he was kind of framed above the waist because he didn't want. I assume he wasn't there in person. Because everyone's going, why wasn't Gunther or Paul Rudd there? No good answers for Paul Rudd, in my opinion, but Gunther, actual reason. Yeah, it's a shame.
He was too busy being a head in a jar.
Yep.
All right, so also going to point out Claude Coringa in the comments. Happy to have you, Claude. Solar Opposites Christmas special, which I forgot was actually a big teased up thing.
Oh, I know we're doing for a certain thing coming up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Coming November 22nd. Very excited about that.
Yeah, I think we found our opener.
Possibly, very possibly.
Claudia, it's not Eric Baldwin, it's
Alec Baldwin. And Claudia, we talked about that before, so you can just go ahead and if you want to hear our thoughts on that, just rewind a bit. It's the first news item we cover in this.
Yeah.
All right.
More bad news. More bad news. Not as bad as death, but still pretty bad.
This is honestly just I don't want to say it's gossip because it's I feel like the implications are more serious than just gossip, but it's tea. It's tea for sure. No problem, Claude. You're good. All right.
So the Batwoman show, which I can't stand. They've been kicking up a lot of their
folks. I just want to set the stage. Like, if anyone's new, like I don't think anyone watching this is probably new, but like Dragon is such a devout comic book media person. He will stick with almost anything, and Batwoman is like his biggest breaking point I've ever seen.
I gave it a season, and I was not amused. And I've stood by every other CW superhero show, which basically per the pattern, with the exception of a Batwoman.
I'm surprised you. Honestly, I'm surprised you haven't given up on the Flash yet, given what I've seen of that.
I mean, look, I'm always taking every season of the Flash. I'm always in the corner, just going, "Come on, Reverse Flash! Come on, Reverse
Flash!" Yeah.
And he did show up last season, and he's supposed. The word's out. This is going to be this new season that's about to start. Is going to be this month. Is going to be the last season or not? And Tom Cavanaugh said he would come back as the Reverse Flash for that last season. So I don't know. I'm just because for me, there's only there's one last story that needs to be told. I want the origin of the Reverse Flash. That's the last story to tell. Anyway, so where was I? Oh yeah, so the Batwoman show. I gave it a season, folks, and basically after the first season, it was already just really hard to watch, and then they pulled a whole bunch of BS where it's like, hey, we're we lost the lead, and we have to basically replace her, not with like just recast it. No, we're gonna put just a rando in the suit. And then I hear like we then eventually recast her and we put her back in the show, but I don't watch it anymore, so I don't know and I don't care. And it's like, why do we have like one opportunity to put Batman in the CW and we just wasted it? We said he gave up and went home after many years at Gotham. Really? That's it? He gave then we bring in Kevin Conroy for a spell and we turn him evil? This is what you're doing to me? Anyway, I could rant all day, but what's pertinent is that apparently Ruby Rose, who was, in defense, the two things the Batwoman show had going for it. Ruby Rose was good casting for that character, and the problem is I'm not crazy about that character in general, which means like, well, okay, they cast it well. It's still not helping the case right now. And two, Lucius Fox's son, who is basically he's kind of the guy in the chair. Now he puts on a costume, which is that's the only thing that would possibly tempt me back to that show. But I'm no fool, Tiki. I'm not going back.
You're no fool.
It's because he becomes
only
this
fools do drugs.
It becomes this character called Batwing, and he's now that on the show, which I've seen the promos and stuff, which is like, oh, close but no cigar, guys. No, unless you say we actually did Bruce Wayne and we did him right, and he's going to take over the show, and we're just going to lose the Batwoman. It's called Batman. I'm not coming back to that show. Anyway, so basically, a lot of allegations come out from Ruby Rose. Basically, explain she had a back injury at the end of the first season. A lot of people assume, okay, well, no wonder she left because
Dragon. You know what this reminds me of?
What?
This almost reminds me like verbatim of the Channel Awesome situation.
I mean, it's not a bad equivalent.
Specifically, what happened with Holly in that situation.
That sounds about right. Yeah, a little bit of Holly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So initially,
I mean, just generally speaking, just it being a total shit show of a set.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So she comes out first and she says, I'm inclined to believe her because, oh yeah, she did very famously have that back injury, and I assume that'd be good enough reason for anyone not to come back. I mean, a stunt probably went wrong. She probably kept a little quiet about it. And, Stephen Amell, he's had a panic attack talking about, when you're the lead of one of these CW shows, there's a lot of pressure on you, understandably. And yeah, I mean, basically the way she framed is like, hey, I know you're lucky to be alive and have a spine still, but, we need you back on the call sheet, man. We need you back in action, which, yeah, so I'm very much on her side initially, but then she's throwing shade again. This is a show I had very little attachment to. It's like, oh, well, I did not know these actors might not be as pleasant to work with than I expected, or they made the guys are breathing down her neck to come back on the show and all that sort of stuff when she was in no condition to. And then I'm hearing the other side of it. I'm hearing, well, no, this did not happen at all. I don't know where she's getting this. We have testimonies from other people. This did not happen. The actor's filing a very pricey lawsuit for character defamation, which I don't know what to believe. I don't really care. It's just the whole, it just sounds more like more awful business coming from the Batwoman show. I just roll my eyes. I'm like, guys, come on. This is why we should have done a Batman show. Okay, this is why. So look at all this. There's a lot of craziness. Again, it's just the fact that Is Ruby Rose? I don't know how trustworthy Ruby Rose is. I don't know if it's going to be like maybe like a Brie Larson thing, or it's just going to kick up things and kind of oppress kind of the stage of the press. I'm inclined to believe her, but then again, there's a lot of evidence on the other side to say no, but I don't really want to bother looking into it. So it's a mess. So moving on.
Dragon, I've got breaking news.
Yes.
Like hot off the presses breaking news.
Is this Garfield related?
No, but I know exactly what you're talking about with that, and what the fuck, Hollywood. But
Okay, what do you
are you trying to make Chris Pratt unlikable? It seems like you're trying to make Chris Pratt unlikable. All right.
Hey, what do you
Dragon, Tower of Terror.
Yeah.
We have a director.
Yeah.
And it's a big one.
Okay, who is it?
Taika.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Watiti?
Watiti?
Taika
Jones.
I know. I was waiting for you to say it. Can you imagine how hilarious it would be if you teamed me up for? Hey, it's Taika Waititi. No, it's Taika Smith. Yeah.
Director of that one horror movie that I really like, but you've never heard of.
Can you imagine how ticked off Taika Waititi would be if there was like another Taika in Hollywood? Just like, hey guys, we got Taika for this. Really? Oh, we love what he did.
Okay, but seriously, that's super enticing. Super enticing. I always honestly, Dragon, if this month proved anything, it's that directors are the new A-list movie stars. As far as I'm concerned, maybe not as far as box office goes, but as far as my personal anticipation goes, I care way more about a director than I do about any sort of stars that are in it. So yeah, Taika on Tower. I mean, give me a break. This has the potential to be the best Disney attraction movie since the original Pirates.
All right.
Moving on.
Okay, so speaking of Disney, so so a lot of Disney release dates are kind of in flux right now, and you can imagine how thrilled I am.
Dragon, I honestly don't mind this simply because I feel like this year was just a total overload of MCU, so I honestly feel like not having as many MCU movies in 2022 might be a good thing.
Well, that's not so much what's got me down to. So first off, here's what I think caused the MCU shift, at least in part. The first thing that got bumped before all the MCU stuff, Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. So Indiana Jones got pushed to 2023 because Harrison Ford just can't stop injuring himself on set. So that has led to a ripple effect. In this case, from what I understand, all the MCU films have been pushed back, I want to say 2 months. They've been delayed by 2 months, where Doctor Strange was supposed to come out in March and has been pushed to May.
I mean, I honestly don't really care. I honestly, that might be a little bit better because it's more in the summer season. It's if it's in May, then it kind of corresponds to Sam Raimi kind of owns that May opening weekend spot. At least he did,
Well, no, that's not what bothers. Here's what my concern lies with just all of it in general, not just Doctor Strange, just in general, all these MCU movies just being pushed back these months. Is that right now it seems like it should be fine. My fear is that the effect on hey, we laid out Phase 4 these Disney Plus series in mind, and they're going to hopefully kind of coalesce with these movies. And we've already been battling since the pandemic of well, now we've had to reconfigure things, and so far it's been so good. I think. I mean, you're going to have a head scratcher with the Black Widow movie, but aside of that,
Eternals is going to fuck everything up. I can already,
and that's what I'm saying. We're already battling.
Know it.
We're already
battling. For the record, I am officially completely off of the Eternals train if I ever was on it to begin with.
Tiki, I swear if I could have bet money that was going to happen. Just
I am dreading. I am dreading.
Because I knew you just going, Chloe Zhao, this.
I know. I'm eating my words on that. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Okay, but that's my point. Eternals already is I'm just going into preparing for whatever's going to happen with that.
The only thing that I'm mildly interested in Eternals is okay, so why the fuck didn't they stop Thanos? Right. It's the Thanos connection is it's literally watching a season of a TV show to get one answer. Anyways.
Well, we already know why, Tiki. They weren't supposed to. That's the why.
Yeah, but we kind of alluded that there might be some sort of connection to Thanos.
I'm hoping so, but I'm not betting my money on it. We'll see.
Anyways.
Okay, regardless, my point is just already we've been scrambling just to hopefully make, kind of with the reconfiguring things that the Disney Plus series, interspersed between the movies is going to go all right. And I mean, I'm not saying so far things aren't don't totally make sense because we don't have like a whole boatload of Disney Plus series between the movies within the ones that have been announced for 2022. Because right now all we got is like all that's been announced is like we have Hawkeye on right now. That's this year. We have Ms. Marvel. We have Miss. That's the thing. I don't even. They haven't fully given the dates to the rest of the stuff in 2022 yet. So that's where my concern lies. If we're going to announce a bunch of stuff Disney Plus series wise for that, and all these movies have been kind of reconfigured, and if things were teeing up certain movies, that could be in chaos. Or we're going to have to like people are going to have the post credit scenes explained. Like, what does this mean? Who's this Val lady? All this sort of stuff. So I'm cautious. I'm a little cautious about like if we can't mess with these release dates too much. I think this 2 month thing. I'm hoping not to hear like, and we pushed these movies to next year, and then there's Morbius coming into the fray again, and like, it's a whole.
I mean, it's a ripple effect of the pandemic, man.
I know.
I don't know. I feel like I'm less cynical about it than you are.
I'm not cynical. I'm just cautious. I'm saying if it happens again, then I'm going to be really worried. I'm just saying like it's just. I think we should be a little worried about it. All. But,
okay, so Claude suggests, he says someone else suggested Nick Offerman is the voice of Garfield. And yes, please, why can't we get that?
Offerman actually might make a good Garfield.
I honestly think that makes a lot of sense. I could totally see it.
I'd buy it, yeah.
All right,
I'll co-sign that. All right, so now we're getting to the better side of the news.
Hooray!
We crossed the threshold, kids. All right, so...
this one is still... like.
Oh, wait, yeah. Wait, no,
it's not like terrible news, but it's more like, oh, fucking A, great idea for a movie. But again, Dragon, it's like the director thing. It's like in the same way that I'm stoked for Tower of Terror because of Taika. David Gordon Green, what the fuck has he done?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. I jumped ahead, Tiki. I thought we were past this news, but yeah, you're right. This is the transition.
What the fuck has David Gordon Green done? It's kind of like the Hollywood. What have you done for me lately? But I don't know, Dragon.
Okay, so they were doing the Disneyland biopic, which is awesome. Walt's, the trouble and tribulation over opening Disneyland. I'm sure the opening day nightmare will play significantly into that film. That's great. Other hand, our director, not a strong vote of confidence. But then again, he's going into some new territory he probably hasn't gone before. So, I mean, possibilities, but not a guarantee.
You know why I'm really annoyed with this?
What? Why?
Is because this is like a classic case of like, oh my god, he has one hit movie with Halloween, which is, wasn't even a fucking good movie. It drives me crazy. Halloween 2018 was not a good Halloween.
Well, apparently, I think he's directed all of them. He's directed all of the new Halloween movies.
And Halloween Kills is like awful. It's way worse than the first Halloween. I mean, I didn't see it, but from what I've heard. Dragon, it's basically like, oh, this guy had one decently sized hit under his belt. Let's give him whatever he wants. I hate it. I'll go see it because it's a good concept, but I hate it.
I know. Well, again, I think a trailer will be telling of like if this guy's going to be able to pull anything off here. But we'll see. I just want to see this movie done right. So All right. Okay. Now on to the good news. See, I jumped ahead. Now we're finally here. So better news. Now the news gets good. Okay, so we got some spin-offs announced, some MCU kind of spin-offs and projects that were announced. For example, Agatha. It was Agatha all along getting a spin-off.
If the title isn't just called Agatha all along, that's going to be like a huge missed opportunity. It's got to be called Agatha all along, right?
I mean, that's pretty much the reason she's getting that. That's pretty much the reason she's getting that spin-off, right? Because it became an overnight sensation.
Oh my god!
Well, yeah.
One thing I have to note about Agatha is that she absolutely owned Oogie Boogie Bash, Dragon.
Yeah, I really want to look into the Oogie Boogie Bash because there was a lot of really cool stuff.
I really want to. I honestly think next year I'm going to make it a point to go like my big. I usually do a trip in October. I've done a trip in October for a lot of years in a row, and I think next year I want to do it like on the week of Halloween because I want to help Man-Eating Wreath with his Halloween display and be an actor for him. And I also want to do Scary Farm and Oogie Boogie Bash. Just like that's on my bucket list the same way that Halloween Horror Nights used to be. It seems like such a good event. Anyways.
Yeah, but I saw like a video of the zombie Captain America. It's really cool. So yeah, the Oogie Boogie Bash seems really cool. And anyway, So with this Agatha show, honestly, what I want from it, I think the most legs you could possibly give that show. I'm really hoping they don't just go like, "Hey, let's go through the the witchy misadventures of Agatha before
Oh, I really
WandaVision."
hope so too. I agree.
See, what I want them to do, the thing that makes the most sense to me is like, hey, well, famously in the comics, the whole point of that character is that she's like the mentor, the reluctant mentor to Scarlet Witch. So let's just do that show because we set up at the end of WandaVision,
Totally,
hey, if I
totally.
need you, I'll come and get you, which is what we imagine, Multiverse of
That's
Madness. But
exactly
hey,
the direction I think they should go with these Disney Plus shows, as opposed to just doing season twos. I mean, obviously, we're getting
yeah,
a season 2 of Loki. I'm not even crazy about that, but whatever.
I mean, honestly,
You
this
know how I
Agatha
feel
thing,
about that. um, but I think it's a better idea where it's like, like with Falcon and Winter Soldier, instead of a season 2, we're getting a Captain America 4. It's like, I think it makes a lot more sense from a storytelling perspective to just have continuations of these stories within the MCU, but it doesn't necessarily just have to be, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, and also the other thing to bear in mind, I'm not sure, again, with all these shakeups and stuff, I'm not sure how, in terms of when this would be coming out, if this would help or not. But if you do that and you give these shows like kind of the different branding for what a continuation would be like, you also take the pressure off of jamming everything in creation to Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness. We
Totally,
don't, I
totally.
mean, that's the thing, we assume Agatha is going to be in some way, shape, or form, but perhaps even if it is, she could be a cameo, or we could do the big story with Agatha in the show. And possibly I don't know if we're going to do the White Vision thing in Multiverse of Madness, or we could do the White Vision thing in Agatha. That's what I'm saying. We have new opportunity. We have new avenues now.
I feel
There's a
like
lot less.
Agatha could essentially just be WandaVision season 2.
Exactly. So there you go. You have like another avenue to do your
Yeah.
continuation, and it is, that show as the ending to that show, and this is the next story, which again is very Scarlet Witch heavy. I hope. Other news. I don't know if I noted this or not. Thunderbolts was announced. Tiki. They're doing a Thunderbolts movie.
This is
It's
this is the Dark Avengers that have been building up, right?
Yeah. I wish they would confirm whether or not, because there's Dark Avengers, and sometimes the Dark Avengers go by the name Thunderbolts. Like my preference, there have been a few iterations of the Thunderbolts. My two favorites were Norman Osborn when he was in charge of the Marvel Universe for a spell, because he defeated the Skrulls during the Secret Invasion. Thanks to Deadpool, just getting it in there. He had his own Thunderbolts team, which included the Elena Black Widow, and had Bullseye as Hawkeye, and like that was the really cool. That was your Dark Avengers version. And then you have like the General Ross version of the team, which is like all the you had the Punisher, you had General Ross, you had Elektra, and you had Deadpool on that team. So as I'm saying, those are two really great lineups. And traditional Thunderbolts, you have Baron Zemo on that team, and that's where obviously I'm hoping we do a mashup of like all three of those versions in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form, because we're gonna have Abomination, we're gonna have a U.S. Agent, we're gonna have Baron Zemo, gonna have Elena, as we've set up with
If Justin Hammer is not in this show, I'm going to lose my shit. I'm sorry, but regardless,
Yeah, well, take
if
it regardless. The thing you got. It's going to be a crime if Justin Hammer is not in Armor Wars, because he is in that story in the comic, and weve set him up, and we just haven't like
yeah,
in the
that's
shows.
true. I
I'd
want
be more
Justin
upset if
Hammer in
he's
the
not in that,
MCU as soon as fucking possible. I'm
because
begging for it.
honestly, a part of me, because this is probably one of the four movies they just added like to the lineup. Too. This is one of the four mystery movies I'm imagining. So it's Thunderbolts, Captain America 4, and I hope, fingers crossed, Secret Wars. But I don't know.
I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I think the way that they've been building this thing up, it has the potential to be like the equivalent to Avengers for Phase 4.
It would be cool. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah, a lot of people were hoping like the Avengers would go up against the Masters of Evil, which essentially is kind of like an anti-Avengers as well. So this would be a great answer to that sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh,
And Tiki, you're right though. It would be a great answer to the fact of like, hey, we don't, we the Avengers are kind of unofficially disbanded, so someone's going to put together a team. If the Avengers aren't doing it, the government's going to do it.
right.
Which makes sense. I'm very excited for this Thunderbolts movie. A lot of people are speculating Bucky might have a big role in the
No,
story as
no note
well.
on the director yet.
No, just announced that it's happening. That's all
Okay.
they've done. So I mean, the question is like Bucky is involved in the Baron Zemo version of the team, which of course, as we saw in Falcon Winter Soldier, we kind of teed a little bit of that up. So Bucky might have a big role in this story as well. I'm not sure. It's unclear. I wouldn't bet on it yet until we get more details. But anyway, the point being, and It's just that I just wish once they nail certain things down, I'm going to be like 100% excited. Right now, I'm at a firm 95. I'm very much looking forward to it.
All right.
Okay. All right, so let's see. So that brings us off of the spin-off news. Okay, so we got a boatload of castings. So let's just let's go through that.
Rapid fire. Let's go through this rapid fire, Dragon.
Right,
Speed round.
Yeah, you hit us off first.
Okay, Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. I'm excited about this just because you never say no to casting talent. I think Will Poulter is a very unconventional actor in a lot of ways, and I really think Adam Warlock in some ways is kind of right up his alley as far as you have to remember, Dragon. Will Poulter, he started out with We're the Millers, which I think is kind of like his character in We're the Millers, maybe not necessarily Adam Warlock per se, but very much like in that same style of comedy as James Gunn. So I think him working with James Gunn in itself is just going to be like, I think it's going to be a very different Adam Warlock, but I'm on board with it.
Yeah, I mean, James Gunn hasn't steered me wrong so far. I mean, I don't know much about this kid, but I'm sure Gunn has a reason for casting him. So let's see what happens.
All
right. Next one's all you, Tiki.
Okay, Danny DeVito in the Haunted Mansion movie. I literally have had no faith in this one up until this casting, and this is just like, hey, look, it's a glimmer of casting. It's a glimmer of good casting. There you go.
Do we know who he's playing, or just that he's in the movie?
No idea.
Okay. Maybe he's the caretaker.
My theory is that he's essentially going to be the Wallace Shawn of this movie, and that he's like the one like good thing where I'm like, hey, I like that. I can gravitate towards that.
There's always my way.
Oh God. But I don't know. I still, from everything I've heard about, like it just really bugs me that we can't have a period piece Haunted Mansion movie. Anyways.
Let's see. Okay, so Bill Murray, he's an Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
And this, like, Ant-Man is, like, I'm not really that stoked on this, but, I mean, just Bill Murray in the MCU in general is pretty cool, so I'll give it that.
I don't want to get my hopes up on this, because I'm thinking, I'm already suspect about how this came out, because he's basically messing with some German guys who are interviewing him, basically saying, oh yeah, I'm in Ant-Man.
The only reason this is even on the list as far as the news goes is I trust John Campea as far as like what he reports on. So
I'm not saying it didn't.
Usually, like nine times out of 10 does not report bullshit.
Well, I'm not saying it didn't happen, Tiki. I'm just saying Bill Murray might have been messing with these guys. He did in fact say this. It's the question if he meant it or not. It's just kind of a random pull if he didn't mean it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, this question, I'm leaning towards this going to be a cameo. I don't know if we're going to make him a legit Marvel character. That's the thing. I mean, I'd like him to be a character. I think that could be kind of cool.
Will he Lumpkins?
I know that'd be great, but here's the thing, though. It sounds like Bill Murray said it's going to be like a one and done. Like he won't be coming back for multiple. Which would rule out again. I'm with you, Tiki. Bill Willie Lumpkin did come to mind, but then again, like if he's only do it for one, he's probably probably not going to be a big character. But who knows? I mean, honestly, there's this one character I think he might be. There's an Ant-Man character in the recent run of Scott Lang's trying to get the ex-con business that we saw in Ant-Man 2. There's this villain called the Grizzly Bear, which is basically a guy in a bear suit. I think it's going to be Bill Murray.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
it's just a big guy in a bear suit, not a robotic bear suit, just like a bear suit, like a taxidermy bear suit with a hole in the face. So I think that's Bill Murray. All right, okay. This last one's the most exciting, I'd say. We have some Oppenheimer casting for Nolan's new movie.
Yeah, and can I just say it's about damn time Killian Murphy has gotten cast as a lead in a Nolan movie.
Yeah, and and Killian Murphy, I've been dying for that too, Tiki. I love Killian Murphy whenever he pops up and stuff, and usually that stuff is Nolan movies, but it's great when he shows up. I loved him as Fisher in Inception. He was so good.
Have you seen Red Eye by any chance?
No, I have not.
That's a really good early Killian Murphy movie.
That's good to know. And apparently he does bear a striking resemblance to Mr. Oppenheimer, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I just think this is such a perfect movie for Nolan. I mean, I'm just so on board with it.
I know.
I think it's got like both the epic scale and kind of like the humanity that Nolan like really does need to kind of get more of a grasp on.
I mean, Nolan is he kind of we got a tease with David Bowie what it was taking a scientist would be, and I think this could be a really great opportunity for him. And also, again, kind of like a war trilogy, kind of a has it been a trilogy or is it? Yeah, there's done. Yeah, I guess not a trilogy yet, but he's doing kind of the war epics right now, kind of the wartime kind of films, with Dunkirk and this,
Uh-huh.
and also Emily Blunt playing the
What
Miss.
if
I
he did a
believe.
real-time Pearl Harbor movie?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. All right,
All
just
right. So
saying.
also Emily Blunt, I believe, playing Mrs. Oppenheimer. I'm not sure, but she's in it too.
I mean, Emily Blunt, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything where it's like, I didn't like Emily Blunt in that role,
Yeah, I didn't believe she'd have donuts. She'd bring Miss Piggy donuts at all.
God.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
all right.
Okay, trailers. We had 3 biggies.
Okay, so hit us with the Batman Dragon, because I honestly don't have strong thoughts either way. I'm kind of trying to go into it as blind as I can. I like that it's essentially like if Joker was was the king of comedy, I feel like this is very much Seven.
I think that's a very fair assessment, Tiki. It is very Seven-esque. Fincher did. Remind me. Fincher did Seven. Is that right?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
It was
Yeah.
Fincher's first movie after Alien 3, actually.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Huh. Forgot that it was right after that one. Huh. Anyway, yeah, so it's definitely Seven vibe. We're building up the Riddler. We have not really shown like a good shot of Paul Dano at all. Like we put him like the kind of like the taped kind of the
I love
Zodiac.
the poster.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I saw the poster in the movie theater today, and I don't think I'd seen it online yet. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Right. So they're building up the Riddler. We have like the cool line of like the signals of warning, which is a little Dark Knight Returns esque, which is kind of cool. We're seeing a little bit more Catwoman, which is good. Seeing Zoe Kravitz in the role there. We have like this really awesome penguin chase going on, where like we're driving the Batmobile through fire and stuff. We're doing like it feels. I love when it ends up upside down. It feels very animated series esque to me, like kind of the opening of Phantasm. When like the Chucky saw his car and everything. A little bit of kind of shenanigans like that. Here's what I'm not feeling though. This is the thing that gives me pause. On both of these trailers, I'm just grasping to kind of get a take on Batman. I'm still at a point where I'm not getting a lot of an opinion formed on like a yay or nay on Rep Pattinson's Batman. But there's a line he has in here. He finally kind of says something to kind of gauge like the Bat voice and everything, and it was not good. He has this line where we're building up the Riddler really awesomely, and he's doing like the interrogation from the other side of the glass. And even as an early Batman, this is kind of Batman coming at a point of weakness here when he says, like, "What have you done?" It's just, it's not great. Just the "what have you done?" It's like,
It's one line.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like he finally says something, and that's how he's gonna say it. It's like, I'm good. Look, I haven't made like a firm judgment on him. I'm just saying that right now, that's all I've got to go on right now. So hopefully the marketing's just steering me away from the good stuff. That's what I'm hoping for right now. That and one thing visually, I don't know how I feel about it just in a trailer. I think he's a little too bulletproof in the trailer.
I could see that. That's
when he's
a way more fair argument, I'd say.
Because I don't mind him like getting like shot like in the first trailer, he gets shot and he's still beating up the guys. Like that's cool, that's fine, that's level, like it's from an angle. But like when he's walking down the hallway, not like doing like the Nolan Batman things, like every shot, every flash of the muzzle, like a different takedown. Like no, just walking forward and they're shooting him in the chest. Like he's Superman. What's the deal? Where's the stakes?
Sure.
So, but I'm just saying, like we'll see. But again, so far, visually, we're getting some cool stuff. We're also getting some stuff that's giving me a little pause, but it's still a ways out. And also, the other reason I think Doctor Strange got moved, by the way, is that it would have been coming out against the Batman. So I think that's another reason we've moved things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although I don't know at this point, I would hesitate to think that Doctor Strange wouldn't be able to beat the Batman at this point.
Oh, of course. Similarly, but then again, you have 80 years of history versus the MCU, which has made a tremendous.
Batman versus Superman is like one of the most hyped up concepts of all time as far as movies go, and look what happened with that.
That's fair. All right, okay. Next trailer. Was it Being the Ricardos?
Being the Ricardos, yeah.
Being the Ricardos, yes.
Dragon, I mean, I hope this is a situation of like they're just trying to save stuff for the actual movie, but I was pretty underwhelmed by this trailer, I got to admit.
I love the build up with the music. I thought that was really cool. I mean, I like the tone and the atmosphere of the trailer.
I just want to say this is a movie that has been on both our radars for so long that it's like one of those movies where it's like it almost feels surreal that it's actually happening just because like we've been following it since like very early like pre-production.
Oh yeah, since originally Cate Blanchett was cast. Yeah.
Who, by the way, I'm still not entirely sold on Nicole Kidman like being the better choice for that, but I digress.
It doesn't read well that we're really trying to obscure Lucy and Desi because they're trying to get people.
That's what worries me. That's exactly what worries me.
The thing that worries. Here's the thing. At least we saw like a quick glimpse at her, which again,
like Javier Bardem is talented. I don't think that Javier Bardem is going to look like Desi, but I do think that it's going to be a good performance, if that makes sense.
I mean, look, obviously this is not a lot to take to the bank with the teaser that we got, given how quick cut it is. Again, I think the tone is really great in terms of like hitting up like, and
of course the one shot of J.K. Simmons is fucking perfect.
That's what I'm saying. I think we're hitting a tone, we're hitting a shot like that really well, but our lead.
I just really hope they go into the J.K. Simmons, Vivian Vance thing. I really hope that that's actually a factor in the movie.
Also, we had two things. I don't know if we knew about this already. You knew Aaron Sorkin was doing this, right?
Yes.
So they really kind of a lot of people did not know Sorkin was doing this, and also
But look, like Trial of the Chicago 7, that didn't really end up being like one of the best movies of the year for me. But I feel like Sorkin, I think it was a good step up in his directing style for Molly's Game, and I liked Molly's Game too. Like I feel like Sorkin's getting better and better at actually directing it. So
I mean, I really liked Trial of the Chicago 7. I thought it did.
I really liked it too. It just didn't end up being one of my best of the year.
Sure. Anyway,
actually, wait, I don't know. It might have been on my top 10.
I think it was. Steve,
I think it was actually. Come to think of it, my bad.
Yes, thank you.
It's just 2020, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Anyway, that's the thing is again, not a lot to take to the bank. Just giving out a few. We see our leads here, but I don't know. I'm worried more about Bardem than I am Nicole Kidman.
I'm kind of the opposite, to tell you the truth.
Because we got less of him than we got more. We at least heard her do.
I know, but Bardem is. I am like Bardem is one of those actors where it's like I don't think I've ever seen a bad performance of him. Like not even a mediocre performance.
I'm not saying he'll be bad. I'm just saying maybe he's not. I don't know. Also, the fact that it's on Amazon makes me really happy. It's like, hey, it's coming to Prime. That's nice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I feel like this is the perfect movie where it's like, all right, I don't need this. I don't need to go to cinemas for this.
Yeah. Sure. It was a TV property anyway. Why not put it on streaming? You know?
Right.
Okay, so lastly, most recently, Book of Boba Fett.
Okay, so honestly, Dragon, this is like...
It's not much, really.
I really love the tone, of the first half of it or so. I gotta tell you, the thing that killed me was the design of the aliens that Boba's negotiating with.
Well, I mean, it's an alien race.
Dragon, they were just the most cookie cutter, Star Trek. It didn't look like Star Wars to me. It looked like B grade Star Trek. I don't know.
I don't think
something about that visual. Just like I am down for this, just because Jabba's palace is my single favorite location in all of Star Wars, bar none. I love it so much. So I am totally all the Jabba the Hutt stuff. Oh God, I love it. I really do. It just sings for me. It's by far the most compelling stuff about Star Wars is the mob stuff. So I'm down for this. I hope it lives up to the potential that this has.
Yeah, I mean, I that didn't bother me. Bear in mind, I mean, we'll see if we're just going to be stuck with a generic sort of if it's like, okay, well, Jabba's Boba's going to sit down with just kind of holding court with generic alien race and Star Wars.
I'm just saying, I want to see the pig-headed guys or something like that. It's like, right. Give me because the races that we see in Jabba's palace have such a distinct visual style to them.
Well, again, I think it was just a trailer. I think it's got to give it another.
No, I know.
So, regardless, honestly, we didn't get much out of this trailer that we didn't know already. It's just okay. Well, he's in charge now. But the big thing I think we hit nicely is one is being in kind of that Mando setting, which is just really nice, and just going forward with Boba Fett, who really impressed in that second season of Mandalorian. it's just the whole like the speak freely moment. Please speak freely, as we set up. Like, hey, Jabba would have just fed you to his menagerie. Me, I'm not that guy. It's like we're under new management now. The Boba Fett's going to operate a little differently, but still a lot of menace, a lot of reputation. So anyway, okay, all right. That brings us to the end of the news.
All right, so let's get into the TV. Oh boy.
Okay. So
What If season 1? I really don't feel like talking about this anymore, Dragon. It was such a mixed bag.
Well, I mean, look, I'm glad the show finally happened. I'm personally pleased with it. I wish the writing, though, I will say, I do wish the writing and the researching that went into the writing was a little tighter because the episodes also. I wish we mixed and matched them more in the way they aired, so we didn't just end up with.
I totally agree with that. Yeah,
some more episodes. I think it's kind of what we learned going through them. I mean, the standouts for me, Captain Carter. Just I love that character and just the fact we might check in with her a couple more times. T'Challa Star-Lord. I thought that was a highlight for sure. Just in terms of things that came out of the What If show, I mean, the Watcher, Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher was amazing.
Honestly, he might be the biggest takeaway out of the whole thing. Yeah,
I think he impressed, and that was an important thing to get right with the show. So I think that's a big. Plus, we're gonna need him to be strong enough that we could possibly bring into the movie. So I think that was the kind of the big litmus test of the first season. And for me personally, the biggest standout of the season, the thing I love most, Infinity Ultron. I loved Infinity Ultron so much. It's so darn cool.
It's just a shame that it wasn't James Spader.
I know it ticks me off to no end, but he was still really cool. All right. I'm hungry for more, though.
I'm not necessarily. If it's going to be like essentially the same writing style, which it probably will be.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully they'll go back to the drawing board on the writing, but I don't know.
Okay, so tell us about Star Wars Visions, Dragon. I still haven't gotten around to this.
Yeah, so better than I expected. I was expecting I was gonna like less more than I did, but I went into it. It was far stronger. It was more hit than miss. I'd put it. It's very much the anime interpretation of Star Wars without having this retell. Kind of use the same characters in the sandbox. We kind of usually pluck a few here and there, but they're never leading the story. I just thought it was a really cool idea that we're doing like the Animatrix thing, but applying it to Star Wars, which in turn takes it back to the Kurosawa roots, which is a really solid idea for Star Wars. And it's very much anime in itself is a very subjective thing, or many people have different tastes of anime, and basically many different studios did almost every episode for each of these shorts. I mean, for me, if I just to shout out the titles here, in The Duel, The Elder, and The Ninth Jedi, I feel were the three standouts for me. Those are my three favorites. I like the short and cinematic ones versus some that were a little soft in the story department and more like style over subs. Like, look at all the anime stuff we can do. Look at all the beautiful landscapes. It's like a little much, but we got cool stuff. Like, we got a bunch. You get for the sake of just seeing stuff you've never seen in Star Wars before. You're gonna have umbrella lightsabers, parasol lightsabers. You're gonna have droids with wicker hats, like the Samurai Jack wicker hat. You're gonna have James Hong as an evil old Sith, and it's gonna be awesome. There's Visions. Visions was I would say successful. I think Visions. I think you'd like Visions, Tiki.
Cool. All right, what happened, Brittany Murphy?
What happened to Brittany Murphy?
No, it's literally just what happened, Brittany Murphy.
Oh, really? It is?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I feel bad now. Okay.
So, Dragon, this is a case I've been following for a long time. As a matter of fact, the second I saw the main YouTube video that they use as kind of like a narration device, I was like, oh, I instantly recognize that YouTube video. Very familiar YouTube video to me. The one where the girl's kind of putting on her makeup while talking about the case.
Oh, yeah, that lady, yeah.
Yeah. So, Dragon, I really like this a lot. I honestly couldn't finish it because the last, it hit too close to home for me. The second half of the second episode, I was like, oh God, no, this is exactly what's going on in my real life. So in that regard, it was very compelling. I didn't want to finish it just because it just really hit too close to home. But I mean, I guess that's a good thing, What do you think? Are you familiar with this case?
I had no idea about it, honestly. I know. Here's
Oh
the, okay.
man,
So
it's a
all I
twist,
knew,
right?
all I knew is that I knew she had died young, and I think I may have heard, may or may I don't know if I heard may or may not have been like a suicide once. I might be confusing that with something else. All I knew is she died young. That's all I knew about Brittany Murphy. So this thing, that's why I checked it out because oh my god, I didn't know like something untoward happened in this affair. Like
Oh
how
yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah.
so it was quite eye opening for me. So I found it very informative. I know some people are really some people are drawing the moral line on this one. I think there's a fair argument to be made, and that it's some people say it's kind of plays into one of the themes of the documentary itself, where it's like, hey, we're kind of glorifying the death of somebody for publicity and for the media coverage of it all, where it's like we're sensationalizing something where we probably should be respectful of what happened here. And some people are saying we don't have much on the husband who was very suspect. I mean, look, just coming at it just as it, even just taking it like on the level of it could be like the movie Blackfish, for example, in terms of it's whether there's manipulation or intent in the fray. I do find it compelling nonetheless. I think it was a well presented story in terms of how the narrative is laid out. I mean, it's enthralling. I felt. I mean, you're learning about the subject. And you're also kind of like you're kind of
I like the fact that it forgoes the traditional, like, because what I was worried about was like, okay, part one's gonna be like, hey, the rise of Brittany Murphy, basically just like a, kind of just a celebrity, like, okay, like Brittany Murphy was young and talented. Yeah, we get it. Let's get to the interesting stuff. And they subvert that. They subvert that really good.
That they do, for sure. I mean, there are also some chilling interviews in the thing. Basically, chilling in terms of like how the media will like lift her up and like, oh hey, we love Brittany Murphy. Yeah, she's the can-do girl from Clueless. Yeah. And on the other hand, then you have like just kind of the biting, just kind of like
The Howard Stern thing pissed me
yeah,
off so
I
much,
know, right?
honestly.
That's the thing.
Fuck
That's what
Howard Stern, honestly. I'll just say it right off the
no,
bat.
Howard's. Here's the thing. I always just if I were to put just one face to radio in the
No,
negative, it would be
look. I'm
Howard's.
just saying, like with that in particular. I mean, that just goes against everything that I believe in as far as you know, uh, that kind of thing goes. I just think it was disgusting.
Well, I mean that's the thing. With Howard Stern, it's this thing of Howard Stern is. I think he just kind of represents the dark side of the business of
Yeah,
radio,
I
where
don't
it's
want to
always
get into a debate about Howard Stern right now.
all right. I'm not getting okay. All right, fine. I'm agreeing with you, but fine. Regardless, yeah, the interview was brutal. With Ashton Kutcher and what happened
Uh-huh.
there. That's what I'm saying. So my point is like we hit like the dichotomous, kind of like a relationship to stardom with Brittany Murphy within the interviews of like, they're gonna lift her up and then they're gonna, then they're just gonna stab her in the back at times. And it's it was a very interesting watch. Of course, the thing that kind of peeves you and I is like kind of the two-part kind of separation of these HBO documentaries. In this case, this
Why
one,
does this need its own elaborate opening title music for 2 episodes?
yeah,
Why?
it's here's the
That's
thing.
another pet peeve that I have with these prestige TV shows. It's the elaborate opening title sequence, and this is just anyways.
It's like, guys, if you're gonna do the split, like at least make it like okay, so it feels like it's legitimately two
At least make
movies.
it
Like
like
it's
two
gonna be
90-minute episodes,
yeah, like the Tiger Woods thing or the Elvis the Searcher documentaries. Okay, there's like
Right.
feature length each, so that makes sense. I mean, look at OJ Made in America. That's essentially 5 movies put together, and that makes sense.
Right,
Like
right,
okay,
yeah.
that's separating it's one giant whole of a story, but at least it's long enough to necessitate that. This not so much, but again, good content though.
All right.
All right. Okay.
Okay, next up, mystery show on my end, and mystery is right because I saw the first season of Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Hey!
Yeah.
Yeah!
Dragon, I like pretty much everything about this show except for one of the biggest elements of it, unfortunately, which is the Shaggy Velma stuff.
Yeah, okay, so that ended up that did not win you over.
It didn't work for me. The big like I think Shaggy and Velma is a cute concept, but I feel like it kind of comes out of nowhere in the show. And more importantly, I just really don't like the fact that they played the Scooby thing as like a love triangle.
Well, good news. I do have some good news for you.
Yeah.
if memory serves, I want to say they completely, if not almost entirely, dropped that for the second.
You're cheating on me. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh my god, no,
Well,
why?
If I recall, the second season pretty much does away with all of that. So I think the second season you might enjoy even a little better. I'm not sure. I know they definitely downplayed it. I don't know if they just completely forgot at the top of the season or not. So.
Okay, that being said, this series I feel like it solidifies Fred being my favorite Scooby-Doo character.
Right,
now.
He's so good in that show, right?
Because
we finally
we
gave Fred some dimension. We gave him the fun trap hang-up.
Dragon, I love the journey that Fred has been on over the past 10 years or so in media.
Yeah.
It's a great transformation. Yeah, I mean, other than that, like, look, it's essentially like I don't like the love triangle. Like, oh god, it's the fact that Scooby and Shaggy are in a love triangle. It just fucking freaks me out. But like other than that, it's essentially what I wanted it to be, which was like kind of like a slightly more comedic, less dark version of the kind of like it felt like a throwback to the classics. And by the classics, I mean like the zombie islands of it all.
Yeah.
So, all right, good stuff.
Okay, all right. Let me tell you about You season 3.
I am never watching this show.
Well, Tiki, if you ever watch the show, I just suggest watching season 1 and stopping there. So, all right, so Joshua Thomas, he's the one who turned me on to this show in the first place, by the way. And of course, this show ended up in our casting for the JGI biopic. So season 1 was excellent. I thought season 1 was really good. It's basically imagine kind of a stalker focused update on Dexter. That's kind of what the season 1 of You is. That's kind of what essentially the show's supposed to be on in premise. And the first season had a really kind of good ending, except for the very kind of the ... bit at the end. But pretty much like, okay, if this is your ending to the story, that's pretty solid. And it's a commentary on the modern relationship. That's really interesting. So season 1, good. Season 2, iffy, with a lot of BS kind of plot developments and like the dead ex-girlfriend's back to life. I hated that. So there's season 2 is a mixed bag. Had its good stuff though, but teased up a really solid premise for a season 3, which is okay. We take our stalker character and we settle him down in suburbia. He's got his happy ending. Why does he need to pursue the you in question? But we have the girl next. We have the older lady next door. So season 3, sadly, we're running on fumes after season 1. It became abundantly apparent this season, unfortunately, Tiki. We make an interesting. Let me put it this way:
we got to that point in Dexter a lot later.
Yeah. So
I've always been skeptical about this show just because it doesn't feel like it has the legs. It's like, like at least with Dexter, he's killing other serial killers, right? So you never really felt like too morally ambiguous about it. With this, it was like right from the jump, I was like, oh, that sounds like an icky premise.
Right. Well, the difference here is he's not in. I can't say he's not a murderer, but he's not a serial killer per se. Like he's not like killing.
No, I understand, but I feel like stalking is somehow like even less forgivable than murdering serial killers. You know what I mean? Because at least with the murdering serial killers thing, there's kind of like a Batman quality to it.
True, that is true. But again, Tiki, I think the first season's based on a book, which I mean that's pretty much like so again, there's like a complete. It's kind of like the 13 Reasons thing. There's like a complete story, and then we're making up as we go along. It feels. So that's why the first season's probably best. But again, season 3, basically, the top of season 3 is where all the interesting stuff is. Okay, we'll make a left turn for where you think it's going with where he teased up at the end of that second season. He's got a wife now, and the wife is a mother to his kid, and the wife is crazier than he is, killing people that she's jealous of. So it's like, so he's dealing with a mess there. And again, it's just I think they wrote themselves into a corner, and there's not much of a way out, and that's pretty much that's where the season really gets into trouble. It's like, okay, well we at the start we tease up some interesting questions, like okay, life's disappointments, in suburbia, and like we get into the backstory of the character in flashback, which is pretty good, and then we have a really interesting question about parentage with this character of like, okay, what if you don't love your baby at first? Like, what if you're having trouble connecting to your child? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, these are interesting questions. And then then the left turns kind of cease, and then we just like, okay, I don't really care about the wife B plot that's going on here. And
Yeah.
it's like basically anything with the wife, who was already a character I was kind of iffy on. It's like every time we cut away to her B plot, I'm just like, I don't care, and we're going back to formula. I don't get why we were teasing up different directions, and
And I also feel like the whole, the girlfriend who's even more unhinged with Dexter thing, that was like probably one of my least favorite qualities of that show.
I mean, I'd defend that one in Dexter's case, but you have to. I don't know, do you ever get to that far in the season? That's like season 7 onward.
I mean, I don't think so. It does not. Like, I feel like it's happened at least 3 times.
Right.
Am I right about that? Because you have Lila, and then you have Lumen. Is that her name?
Well, Lumen was Lila, yes. Lila, yes. And then you have, I believe Hannah was the last girlfriend.
Yeah, but what about Lumen, though? Wasn't she also kind of in that mold?
If Lumen was season 5, Lumen, is that what
Yes.
Oh yeah, well, she had a revenge thing. It wasn't really like she was killing everyone left and right. She just wanted to kill a guy that tried to kill her. So that's pretty. She wanted to kill Johnny Lee Miller. Anyway, the guy with the watch thing. Tick tick tick. That's the sound of your life running out. That whole.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but yeah. Anyway, so they're doing another season of You. Apparently, got renewed for a 4th season because that's the thing with Netflix has kind of created a trap for itself, almost like
Netflix,
the CW.
like they cancel shows that have really good premises, like American Vandal, for example, just to name one.
Wait, it got canceled?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah. Like, that's a show that could have kept going forever. Like, they didn't even have to keep focusing on the same characters,
That's true, yeah.
Anyways.
So that's the thing. Netflix, basically, when they drop these things, it gets like all the views, and half the time that necessitates, we're doing another season. Like, guys, Anyway, of course it's going to get all the views. You just drop something new. Everyone wants to watch something new. They're going to go to that, even out of curiosity.
Yep.
It's not a guarantee. Anyway, so do another season based on how this season ends. Like, I really don't get how it's possible for them to go forward with like another season. Like after, well, guys, you did like the whole wife and kid thing. It kind of blows up in his face. Where do you go from there? So that's I'm kind of done with You. But if I'm being honest, if they have like a good trailer for season 4, I'm probably gonna do it again. Glutton for punishment, just not for Batman.
All right, Dragon, I'm going to go ahead and switch around the 2 selections that I have on this list, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, sure, fine.
Midnight Mass is the more recent of the 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mike Flanagan. I've seen like 1 or 2 of his horror movies. Dr. Sleep being probably the most prominent one. But I've heard really good things about his TV work. And Haunting of Hill House just sounded like I don't know. It sounded like a little much to start out with. Honestly, with Haunting of Hill House, it kind of sounded like, okay, this seems more like a prestige drama than a horror. Midnight Mass, when I saw the premise of it, I was like, okay, I'm a lot more sold. And hold on. Sorry, I just need to clear my throat there. Dragon, I can safely say I feel like this kind of falls into that sort of pulp horror vibe that I honestly think it's your wheelhouse of like, this feels like the pulp horror of something like Ash versus the Evil Dead, for example, mixed with the eloquent storytelling of the Albuquerque verse. Like, I love this thing a lot.
Well, I do know that I know one of the characters from the show from other things. I believe the father character, the guy with the priest. Is that Midnight Mass? Am I thinking of the right one?
Yeah. Oh, he's such a good. Oh my God, Dragon. He has one of the best introductions I've ever seen for a character. Just the way that he's introduced and he comes onto the scene. Very compelling character. To me, the best character, the one that kind of hooked me in, was Victoria Pedretti, as she's essentially like, I don't know exactly what her role within the church is, but she's kind of like the assistant to the preacher, who's like kind of like the person behind the scenes, making sure that everything's running properly.
Gotcha.
Dragon, she's pretty much the villain at this piece, and I'm gonna say it right now. She's the best TV villain I have seen since Gus Fring, bar none.
Really, that good?
That good. She was chilling. Nurse Ratched vibes all over the place with her.
Well, we actually
fucking
do have a
chilling
nurse.
character.
Yeah, we do
The
actually
type
have
of
a nurse
character where
watch.
it's like she has a Bible verse to justify every shitty thing she does, and oh my god. Dragon, I would recommend this, Dragon. I really would. I don't recommend horror to you very often, but I don't even necessarily want to tell you much about what it's about because I feel like it goes in a really interesting direction. Like as far as like the supernatural elements go, I kind of want to keep it a surprise. But yeah, like I said, Dragon, this is like the closest that I've seen horror done on like an Albuquerque verse level of storytelling potential. I mean, this really does feel like that. I feel like it moves along at a much quicker pace than something like Haunting of Hill House, which we'll get to, which is a lot more of a slow burn. Like I said, this is just it's pulp horror at its finest, and I mean, as far as blood and gore and jump scares go, like it's got a few jump scares, it's got some gore, but I honestly don't think it's anything that you can't handle. And I think most of the show kind of like hinges on the character work done in it. And the characters themselves are great. Like, especially, like I said, Victoria Pedretti. There's actually it's an isolated island community, which I really love. Most of them are Catholic, like the big majority of them are Catholic. The main police officer is Muslim, and Dragon, he's a great like inverse of like the classic kind of like hero cop archetype. He's on one of my other favorite characters. Definitely the most likable character on the hero side of things. I mean, just all around this show just I don't know, it really fired on all cylinders for me. I don't like I said, this feels much more like a pulp horror story, whereas Haunting of Hill House is very much more of a slow burn ghost story. I honestly don't know which one I like more, but I will say that this is not the only Mike Flanagan thing that I saw this month, and Haunting of Hill House is also not the only Mike Flanagan thing I saw this month. And Midnight Mass is going to be mentioned again in another Mike Flanagan project. Just kind of going to plant the flag there.
Okay. All right. All right. So speaking of season 3s earlier, okay, the movies that made us, season 3. So yeah, this is comfort TV for me. I love documentaries with a story.
I'm just waiting for the next toys that made us, just because I feel like the really comedic, cheeky tone actually works with that.
I agree. I don't know why they're not making more of those. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, I like to think they're working on a supersized season. That's why it's been taking so long. But I say that because this season, bigger than most seasons they've done before. This had a boatload of episodes.
That's good.
So yeah, so this it was a really solid lineup too. I love a documentary. The story centered around pop culture, so this absolutely scratched the itch, and also was timed perfectly for Halloween because it was kind of a with the larger season and selection. They had here's the lineup: you had Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Aliens, RoboCop, and Coming to America. I think that's a very strong lineup.
I got to admit, not a lot of those really interest me, just because I like with the horror movies. I already know a ton about those horror movies based on other documentaries.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the non-horror ones, because I'm in a similar boat. Because me, I know extensively now about the Nightmare on Elm Street series and the Jason movies. I know much about Halloween, so I mean, it was kind of a refresher on the little I do know about the original Halloween movie. So
they made some pretty extensive documentaries about Halloween. I think there was an E! True Hollywood story about it.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. That's about it.
There was a feature-length documentary on the DVD. Like, yeah, there's been extensive stuff on Halloween too.
That one I want to check out. The one that's on the DVD. But point being, the other ones though are the ones that really kind of they were really informative. I know RoboCop, but I'm down for any excuse to talk about RoboCop, and of course there are a few facts that you don't know they put in there. It's really cool. I did not know. I love the Coming to America episode because that was like a really good just learning about the tension with between John Landis and Eddie Murphy on the set of that one. That very much that's John Landis coming off of the Twilight Zone tragedy, which is really interesting. Which gets covered, and let's see, and also Aliens. Again, I told you about this. I watched I believe the second season. Is it the second or third? I think it's the second season of that Blockbuster podcast. which is all about James Cameron, where Ross
Yeah, I still
Marquardt
need to
is
get
doing.
around to that. I think I listened to like the first episode.
Yeah,
It
and they
didn't grab
cover.
me right away like the George Lucas one did, but
Well, trust me, I think it'll get you. It gets really good.
uh-huh.
And they covered aliens in that, and so this episode was kind of like, oh yeah, I know about that. That's cool. Yeah. So it's just it had some connective tissue within the slasher stuff because each of those slashers kind of bled into the other one. No pun intended. So yeah, it was a fun watch. I had a really good time. I like the movies that made us. So it was another strong season for me and a really good diverse lineup. Yeah. I'm still waiting on that
Right.
RoboCop full feature-length documentary, by the way, to those RoboDoc guys out there. Get to it. All right.
All right. Let's see. So next up, Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Greg, this was honestly like one of the biggest blank spots on my horror resume as a horror fan. I've heard nothing but great things about this. I can say the first it took. Okay, hold on. My notifications on Facebook are blowing up. Let me mute that really quick. Sorry. It took me a couple episodes to get into this because the first couple episodes are mostly just like it's a big cast. It's like there's about let's see, there's how many kids are there? There's like I think there's 5 kids because there's 2 twins, there's the oldest son, and then there's two other daughters. Yeah, so there's 5 kids, and they all are pretty pivotal to the plot, and they all are like very diverse characters in their own right. And it really takes you a while to kind of get caught up on like who they all are and their eccentricities, and also the fact that it's like jumping back and forth in time. Like when they're all young, you can tell them apart, but when they're all kind of like middle-aged adults, it's a little hard to distinguish. Like, okay, so that one's supposed to be that one. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to kind of like put the pieces together on that. I will say about halfway through, the end of episode 5. Oh my God. Amazing twist. One of the best concepts of any ghost story. I'm just going to tell you it, Dragon. So essentially, I'm sorry. I need to go off on it because this twist is so good that I need to tell you about it. All right. So throughout the first 5 episodes, the one of the main girls in the family, the youngest ones are twins, a boy and a girl, and the girl twin, she's haunted by this ghost called the Bent Neck Lady, right? And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a ghost of a lady who's got a bent neck, like as if she's been hung. And she kind of haunts this character in like moments throughout her life, which leads up to her suicide, which is essentially like the catalyst to the whole plot. And then the plot kind of like jumps back and forth in time from there. And at the end of episode 5, which is kind of like the flashback episode for the twins, kind of like, revealing the twins' backstory and everything. At the end of it, we see her killing herself by hanging herself. And it's revealed that she was the bent neck lady and she was haunting herself the whole time. Like, so she was essentially getting premonitions of her own death from herself throughout her whole life. Drug, that still chills me to the bone. Like, this show is not a show that's high on jump scares, but it's a show that's rich in chilling concepts. Like, just being haunted by visions of your own death throughout your whole life. I don't know, Dragon. Nothing scares me quite like that. Like, that, honestly, I haven't been able to get that out of my head for a while. Oh, God. I will say that the last couple episodes, I feel like the show ends on maybe too optimistic of a note, given the rest of the show kind of has like this bleak tone to it. But I mean, it's really damn good, man. It's a great ensemble piece. It takes a while to get going. Episode 5 is great with that backstory, the bent neck lady twist. Episode 6 is an incredible one-shot episode where they actually do this thing where they're in 2 different locations in 2 different time periods, but it's still a one-off. Like, they have these like actors are like transitioning, like they built the set to be like both the Hill House set and this funeral parlor set, and so the actors can like walk back and forth, and then like there's kids scurrying around. Oh my God, it's such good cinematography. like I said, it's a little weak towards the end, but I mean, this is a show that I have not been like. I do think it's a little bit better than Midnight Mass, just because, like I said, Midnight Mass is a little bit pulpy. This one is just it's very, very rich. It's one of the it's a very invigorating movie from like a ghost story perspective, because frankly, I've been a little bit sick of the ghost genre. I feel like after The Conjuring Part 2, that was kind of like the peak of the ghost story. And then we haven't had a good one since then. And this kind of has me more interested in the genre again. I think it's a very, very good take on a ghost story. Really, really great stuff. All right. Next up.
Archer season 12.
Oh, dear God. 12 seasons.
Yeah, to be fair though, I haven't seen all 12 seasons. I kind of I skipped here's the thing. I think after season 10, I think it's 10, might have been 9. Archer goes into a coma, but that doesn't stop the show. They do like his coma dreams, where basically they're like period pieces, where they do like a 40s one, they did like a sci-fi one, they did like an Indiana Jones one. I think they've done like kind of a theme season of like set like a genre season. I have not seen the genre seasons because like, well, it's a dream though. It's not really like what's going on the outside. I mean, it's okay, but it's I like the 40s as much as the next guy. But why do I? When's he gonna wake up? So, season 11, they woke him up. Season 11, they woke him up, and season 12, we continue on that track. He's getting back in the swing of things. He's got a cane now. It's this is the last season for Jessica Walter, so they recorded her in advance. So I mean, this is like the last time you'll hear her, and they wrote her out of the show, I assume, so they don't have to worry about getting a replacement for her, which is kind of nice. It's basically the agency, the spy agency is fledgling as it tends to do, but the idea is like things were going really great until Archer woke up, and then he botched things for the agency when he
That's really funny.
Yeah, H. John Benjamin again. This is like, to me, this is the H. John Benjamin role. I know a lot of people say Bob from Bob's Burgers, and that's cool from what I've seen of him. But
I honestly still think of him as Coach McGurk before I think of him as anything else. Home movies is just like embedded into my brain.
Right. But he's great as Archer. So that's the thing. So this season they're competing against another spy agency. I forget what it's called. I don't know. It's like Obsidian or something. It's something kind of fancy. Anyway, the leader of the spy organization is Fabian Kingsworth, who is basically a Colin Firth parody from Kingsman. That's kind of the gag of like, okay, we give him to kind of a parody of.
I got excited because when you said Fabian, I thought he was voiced by Patrick Fabian.
I know. When I heard his name, like, oh, we call him Fabian. I know it doesn't really equate at all. But again, you and I, probably the two people on Earth, and whenever we hear Fabian, there's just a little moment. It's like, oh.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Fabian does have a pretty decent following from The Last Exorcism as well. I feel like a lot of people know him from that.
That is true. Yeah, they do. Anyway, so to me, I mean, there was one particular standout episode for me. Not that there was a bad season or anything. Just it was like part of the course with Archer. Good spy adventures. Amidst like a circumstance that kind of overarches the season. In this case, there was a flashback episode to Archer before he became the drunken stumblebum that he is. It was like Archer, like back when he was kind of green in earnest, and he had a mentor. And this is what I loved about it. His mentor was Bruce Campbell. It was awesome. Oh boy! So just the usual fun for Archer. Not much more to add. Just that we gave a nice send off to Jessica Walters. So, I think things worked out.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right. So finally, Squid Game. Did you watch this?
No. Tell me about this show, T, because everyone's raving about it.
Man, I'm one of the few people where it's like I get the hype, I get the appeal. Honestly, as a Survivor fan, I should love this because there's a lot of like game theory involved in it. I don't though, and I think it comes down to the characters. The characters in this thing, I feel like the lead is good but not great. I feel like he's pretty much like a prototypical kind of like, everyman where it's like he's in a very vulnerable situation. What I don't like about his arc is that it starts off with a very clear motivation of like, okay, he's a divorced father, and the daughter's mother and the stepdad are going to move to America, and he needs money to to support, to kind of like get custody and make sure that doesn't happen. Like that's his goal. And Dragon, by the end of the series, after the first couple episodes, they don't address that at all. Like he wins the money and they literally don't address the daughter at all, which bugs the crap out of me. Anyways, like if you go down the line with the characters, they're all likable, but they're also very cookie cutter. It honestly kind of reminded me of like a Pacific Rim or something like that. They felt more like archetypes, very well acted archetypes, but archetypes nonetheless. You know the basic premise for the show, at least.
I mean, what is it? It's kind of like a Hunger Games-esque game show.
It's a bit like Hunger Games, except it's like people play it voluntarily. Except they don't know that it's going to be death when they first get into it.
It's basically like a lethal Japanese game show. Is that correct?
Essentially, yes. It's lethal Japanese game shows, yes.
I mean,
I will say this. The games themselves are amazing. Like, definitely lives up to the hype. I feel like that's why the show gets the hype that it does. Every sequence of every game is amazing, thrilling, super suspenseful. Honestly, my personal favorite one is when they have to cross this bridge where it's like different panels of glass, and it's like, so basically there's like a left and a right row and different panels, and they have to guess like like one panel on each of the left or right row as you go on. Like one is like reinforced glass, the other, if you step through it, just instantly breaks. Oh, so good, such good suspense. The most interesting character in the show is a character that's just known as the Old Man. And all I'm going to tell you about the Old Man is that there's a twist involving him that I really don't like. That's all I'll say about that.
I see.
Like, I feel like I totally got the hype for him in the moment. There's a particular moment with him. I believe it's episode 6, I want to say. Whatever moment the marbles game is. Where it's just like, oh my god, that's super emotional and crushing. And then Dragon the Twist basically just like totally is just like, hey, remember how you felt about the Old Man? Well, we're just gonna fuck that up. So overall, Dragon, I totally get the appeal, but if I ever go back and rewatch this, I'm pretty much just gonna fast forward to the actual games. Like, the plot and character and conspiracy stuff really didn't interest me that much.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so October 2021 movies. Let's do it.
All right, let's start with Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah, this is maybe one of the better so bad it's good movie experiences I've had in theater this year. I think Woody Harrelson is like fabulously bad. Like, it is not the Carnage I want at all. This movie pretty much like vanishes any hope I have of actually getting a screen accurate Carnage ever. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I just think the whole idea of like, the Carnage and Shriek thing and Carnage and Cletus Cassidy, it's basically just like, oh, shut your mouth, woman. I don't know. It's ridiculous. I love the nightclub scene with Venom and the mic drop. Venom, just in general, I feel like is just a super endearing character. Tom Hardy, Tom Hardy is like way too good of an actor for these movies, which makes his whole presence in them totally an enigma. Even Dr. Dan gets a few fun things to do. So
by the way,
what?
I'm sorry, something just occurred to me when you brought Dr. Dan.
Yeah,
he's been in Curb this season. Are you caught up?
I am caught up. Who's he playing?
Yeah, he's the Netflix executive.
Oh, I would have never recognized him.
Yeah. Okay. See, he was on Veep, which is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's show. That's how he knows. That's how he got on the show for Larry David. I assume that's the whole.
By the way, with Curb, I will say it kind of had like the first episode I was kind of unsure about. I was like, I don't know, like that was fun, but by the end of episode 2, I'm like, oh man, this is building a house of cards, and I love it.
All right, I'm sorry. Go back to your Venom thoughts.
No, it's all good. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, like I had such a fun time with this. It's like I pretty much I feel like the first Venom movie is about the best screen accurate Venom we're ever gonna get. But, whatever. I can't say I'm excited for Tom Holland Spider-Man to fight Venom at this point, but,
Yeah, so to me, look, this was such an easy setup, setup, and we kind of stumbled on the mark here. Such an easy setup. Like, okay, the first Venom movie, the best part was Eddie Brock and Venom and their dynamic. That was, the namesake character was the best part of that movie. The villain stunk. So how are we going to
yes.
remedy that? We're going to give him the iconic villain, the villain we should have gone with in the first movie instead of Riot, Carnage. And we botched Carnage in the writing of the movie. On the flip side, though, I think Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, particularly in Act One, I think he is good as the serial killer Cletus Cassidy. I thought that was some of the best parts of the movie. Honestly, I thought he was. I loved when we go through the backstory and he's writing like the letter in blood, and like the red ink, and he's killing the spiders, like the period kills a spider, eats the blood. So it's just there's no reason to it, man. There's no reason to the writing. It's like a 90-minute movie. We end on the fight, with the church climax. It's like, again, I like how straightforward our writing is. I just wish it made a lot more sense. And again, like as you said, the whole shut your mouth thing with Shriek, it just doesn't track. Of like, okay, interesting relationship possibility here. His weakness is her power, but traditionally Carnage still loves her. He still really likes her. How do we make that work? And we didn't make it work. We just kind of got the Carnage relationship all wrong. With Carnage doesn't get along with himself, which is not at all how that goes. And I think I fundamentally think splitting kind of our Act Two kind of low lows, like splitting Venom and Eddie up as a low lows, is a very bad reductive call. Like, well, we spent the whole first movie getting them together. It's kind of a waste, don't you think?
Yeah, so many sequels tend to do that. It's weird.
Yep.
It's a weird trend. I feel like one of the only sequels that did that well was Guardians Volume 2, just because I cared about everything that was happening with all of them.
Yep. I think we left money on the table with the whole father-son parables. Just again, all that was just left on the table. Like, well, hey, Eddie Brock had a bad father, so did Cletus Cassidy, and the whole Venom and Carnage had the father-son thing, and we pointed it out. We did nothing with it, and except we made a joke about like to the father in the church. It's about it. That was our payoff. That was really dumb. And again, I think it's well directed, but it's very frustrating. I think some of our action was well directed. It was just infinitely frustrating. The best part of the movie to me is the post credit scene, and that's not saying much.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at on it.
All right, Many Saints of Newark. I have not seen The Sopranos, but I do know a lot about the dynamic between Tony and Christopher Moltisanti. And I am very interested in kind of like, the mysterious what happened with Christopher's father. Why is he such a revered part of Tony's life? And, he only comes up a couple times in the show, but he's kind of like this shadowy figure looming in the background. And the posters promised, what made or who made Tony Soprano. And that's not the movie we got. What was it?
I don't know if we're going to be simpatico on this one, Tiki, entirely.
I'm sure it's probably because you've seen The Sopranos and I haven't, but Dragon, I was really hoping that this would be like a good sort of like, okay, like I'm going to watch this movie, going to get kind of like a baseline on this Tony Soprano character. And I mean, Tony Soprano in this movie is like very sidelined. This movie is all over the place. Like this movie just, to me, it's like David Chase cannot do a feature-length film. It's like it feels like a half a season of a TV show crammed into 2 hours.
Well, to be fair, he didn't direct this. He wrote it, not directed it. But you're right. There's definitely a difference from the show and the movie for sure.
I mean, I was really hoping that it would be like, okay, like let's, like I'm kind of sold on this, like who made Tony Soprano thing, but I just don't feel like the movie delivered on that. I feel like the movie was just kind of like a whole bunch of like little subplots kind of mixed together. I will say, oh my God, this freaking Jesus Christ. Hold on.
Yeah.
I will say that Gandolfini's son, he delivered.
He did.
I just wish he was in a lot more of it than he was.
Instead of like half the movie where we did like the halfway point thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. I feel the big, the diehard Sopranos fans, and here's what I'm anticipating. A lot of the recent binges, like, hey, I'm gonna get ready for the new, Sopranos movie by watching The Sopranos, so I can fully appreciate all the recent bingers who are now becoming fans of The Sopranos. They may be in for a rude awakening, given the different vibe of this prequel than the
Yeah.
show. So I that
And I was
my,
kind of
my
hoping for the opposite. Like I was hoping that this
yeah.
would kind of like, like
Be Better
spark me
Call
into
Saul.
a
It would,
binge.
yeah, it would be something like you could actually watch at the start, but no, you kind of need the show to
Right,
really
right.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I let me this way. So my grandfather, and he's the huge Sopranos fan. He rewatches it he watches it as much as I watch, as you and I rewatch Better Call Saul. He loves that show. I've seen the Sopranos. I've watched it all the way through once, and I liked it, just not as much as like I want to rewatch it again and again. I'm not that guy.
Sure, sure.
I mean, The Sopranos is a great premise. It's basically, hey, what if, what if we saw a mob family with problems, like a really screwed up version of the mob family dynamic that we've seen in like a Godfather or something, or a Goodfellas. Like, what if we just really gave them like legit problems? And again, primarily, what if a mobster saw a therapist? That's what the core idea is, and I think that's really a great premise. And it goes in unexpected directions that you don't expect. It's like not every episode's like, okay, well, he just goes in the therapist's office. It's like, no, it's not just as cut and dry as that. It's like, okay, we actually we explore the universe a little bit. Anyway, so this movie particularly, so on the whole, I enjoyed it. Being kind of like not a diehard Sopranos fan, just the guy I've seen, I've liked what I've seen. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I think it's on brand with the Sopranos universe once you've been in there. What I really liked about the movie, oddly enough, Tiki, is I really enjoyed the Moltisanti sins of the father framing device of like, okay, so we have the Chris Moltisanti as the narrator, basically telling us about his father and how his father basically created the man who ended him with Tony Soprano. How that whole cycle goes, and I thought the whole origins of Tony Soprano's story. I thought that was really good, and I like that aspect of the story. The problem is, it takes us like a long time to get from young Tony Soprano to the
Such a
Michael
long
Gandolfini.
time. Oh my god.
I mean, it's literally at the halfway point of the film. Of like the movie's like, what is it, 2 hours on the money, or is it like two hours plus?
Something.
However long.
I think it's like 2 hours and some change. Yeah.
Okay, well, however long it is, like literally at the halfway point is when okay, so we have like little kid Tony Soprano to the Michael Gandolfini, which is the one we're all coming to see. So that's unfortunate. The casting, though, I want to say this, that with the Mike Gandolfini thing, casting is very on the money. Like our girl, I think she did an excellent job as Liv Soprano.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Vera Farmiga, and of course, John Bernthal is Anthony Soprano, who barely he's not really in the show at all. So it was really cool to kind of see, where Tony got it from. And I think one of the really cool things that the movie did, and again, this is not helping for the newcomers, I'm sure. They recreate a few key. They recreated the flashback. Tony thinking back to his childhood, where basically his father got arrested. So we got to see that scene recreated with Bernthal, which I really liked. It's like, hey, I recognize that scene. We got the we're calling references to the things that kind of happened later on here and there. Corey Stoll as Junior Soprano. I thought that was great. We gave him his filthy catchphrase and all, like your sister's, this.
But I mean, like Junior Soprano, I was like, oh, I know this person, but they don't really get a lot to do. They're not really that tied into the story.
And given how big the payoff is with Junior Soprano,
yeah.
I want to know how you felt about this, because this to me is the weirdest thing in the movie. Ray Liotta, I think he was good, but he's kind of would you agree, has kind of a bifurcated role in this film?
I mean, that's the thing, Drake. I feel like every role is kind of like that, though. I feel like the major flaw of the movie is that all the characters are, like, all the acting is good, all the characters are interesting. They, like, literally none of them get the development that they should get, though. It's overcrowded.
I'll tell you who got the biggest
That's why it feels like 6 episodes of a TV show,
I don't disagree with your point there. That's the thing. I think a lot of like my grandfather, for example, he was not dazzled by the film either. He liked the casting, but it's pretty much, I think that's the unanimous opinion from the diehards. Like, well, it's like it was cool to see him cast and get to see him younger. And the interesting thing that, since you keep bringing it up, Dick, is that the word is they're trying to develop it as a show now, which I'm not sure how good an idea that is.
Fuck no.
I mean, per your point, though, again, if it does feel episodic might suit it better, but I'm not sure if it necessarily
maybe. But I mean, it wasn't nearly compelling enough for me to want to go back to it, though.
That's the thing. That's what worries me. Of like, I don't just given the reactions. I imagine if the reaction was good, then we get like another movie. But clearly, that has not been the case. So it's I mean, I'd like to see more Michael Gandolfini. The biggest thing, for example, one character I felt really got the shaft. I would like to see explored if there were more of this. Edie Falco's character, Carmela Soprano. We saw like him meeting, like Carmela at the phone booth scene.
And again, like everything
yeah,
else is just like, oh, there she is.
yeah,
There
and
she is.
that's what I'm saying.
That's about it.
If we were to do more, I'd like to see that explored. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the thing. I mean, I like the through line, but you're right though. That the rest of the movie is just we're not. It's kind of hard to
I don't want to say
explore the
it's
universe.
member berries, but it's kind of verging on that territory a little bit.
I think had it not had like the core story, it would be purely member berries. I would give you that much. But
Yeah,
again, I
yeah.
think the core story necessitates it as like going back to the well. It just doesn't. I don't think it necessarily sticks the landing, which I'm sure a lot of people. I just binged all Sopranos for nothing. I'm sure. I feel bad for our buddy Connor Nielsen. Like I don't know if he's going to. I'm not
Oh
sure if he's.
God.
So I know Connor, our buddy Connor, was on a mission to binge The Sopranos in time for this, and now it's
Oh Connor. Oh no.
so
What an unworthy movie to do that with.
so I don't know. Again, it's like him and many other like so many other people have been doing the same thing. So I don't know if he's. I know one thing. I've been talking to him like as like I've been tracking, knowing what happens. I was like, hey, did you get around to this character yet? And so he's been liking the show. I just again the payoff. Well. So I don't know if he made the goal or not because the movie is going to leave HBO Max it left already, left at the end of the month, and it'll be coming back eventually. But I wonder if he made the quota in time. I got to ask him that. All right.
Okay.
All right. So that brings us to what is that?
No Time to Die.
Yes, No Time to Die. So this is of course the new Bond movie. This was a highlight of the month, Tiki. This was really good.
That's good to hear. Like my scheduling just really didn't work out for it because it came out the month that I was on the trip, and then for about like a week and a half, 2 weeks after I got back, I wasn't feeling good. So and then after that, it was like bam, Dune, Wes Anderson, Edgar Wright. So it's like I couldn't find time to fit into my schedule, but I'm glad it's good.
Yeah, it's a very solid conclusion to the Daniel Craig Bond films. It's a step up from the plot of Spectre, which I think Spectre has great again. Christoph Waltz as Blofeld is great casting, and that character is great. It's just the plot
I feel
of that
like Rami Malek though is an equally tantalizing casting choice.
Well, I'll get to him in a second.
So how is he?
Well, that's what I'm about to get to.
Okay.
So again, on the whole, so again, it's a step up from the plot of Spectre, but the villain loses momentum.
That's unfortunately what I've heard, and it's like that's really unfortunate because Rami Malek just seems like a perfect Bond villain casting.
Well, let me tell you what happens. I won't say anything that happens. I'm just generally let me tell you what the problem is. So he plays Safin, this guy called Safin, if I'm saying that right. Safin is great. He starts off tremendously strong and menacing, and there's like a great twist and everything. It's like okay, you're going to be sold on this character from the outset. I like. But then this comparison is very warranted here. It's very much Whiplash from Iron Man 2.
Oh no!
But he does buy. Only difference though, we buy him back though. He does at the very end we buy him back. But there's like Act 2, he loses something because basically a goal is achieved, and it's like okay, why is he doing the generic Bond plot? Why is he doing the Bond plot, the Bond villain plot then? Where it's like okay, well he already did it. Why is he doing it to the Globe now?
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah.
And but again, he does buy it back in the end. He gets interesting, towards the end of the movie, though. So I mean, it's kind of a shame that it's like kind of that lull in the middle, which is that's the crying shame. Like that's one
ton of Bond movies lull in the middle, though. Like
that's
just
fair.
Generally speaking,
I think that's about on brand. That sounds about right. Yeah. And, so here's the other problem.
Okay, I honestly don't like even the best ones. I don't think I've ever seen a Bond movie that I haven't felt is a little too long.
I think Skyfall's about right length.
Skyfall's about the closest. Yeah, that's about the closest. Yeah.
Bear in mind, I haven't seen all the Bond movies. I pretty much have
far
seen
from it for me too. Yeah,
I'm pretty much caught up on the Craig movies and maybe a dash of Connery. It's about as far as I got. So regardless, so there's one other problem in the movie. This is a smaller problem, but it's kind of an irritating problem. So Um, we have another 007 in the movie because the idea is that, at the end of the last movie, he kind of left the organization. It's kind of like the Lazenby thing where he's like, he retired and he found love and he's good until he gets
Yeah.
pulled back into the, how that goes. So, um, we have a new 007, which the most baffling thing in the movie is like, I assumed it was going to be Moneypenny, who we set up in Skyfall. Like, oh yeah, so with the traditionally the secretary is actually a field agent. She shot him in Skyfall. She's in the field. Perhaps she became the new 007. That is not the case. There's some rando we don't know. And what's worse is that she has this really weird forced rivalry with Bond that so hilariously the Daniel Craig Bond does not care about at all. And it just makes me wonder in the while watching the movie. He clearly is just like, hey, it must bother you that I'm called 007 essentially. So she's not subtle about it at all. And he
I
just
mean,
doesn't.
honestly, the fact that Daniel Craig is super empathetic towards that honestly sounds really amusing in its
It
own right.
is.
So,
He plays it so well. That's the thing. Like, he's great in those moments. It's just like it just then reminds you of the problem. Like, why is she bringing it up? It's like she's going out of her way to make herself. She's punching upwards for some reason. It's like he doesn't care. He very clearly doesn't care. It's like, why are you cooking? He hasn't done anything bad to you or like insulted you or anything. Why are you? Anyway, I'll tell you who's a standout though, Tiki. Okay, here's who should have been that 007 character, as everyone's saying, and I agree with it. Anna de Armas. She is amazing in this movie. It's a brief role. She has a brief scene in the movie. She's this character called Paloma. It's like there's this Cuba mission that happens, and she's in it and she steals the show for a bit, and she's wonderful. So so yeah, just the Daniel Craig Bond. He's always kind of faced these big questions of the immortality and the future of espionage, and this movie kind of puts a really nice kind of period on that arc that he's been going on through all of his movies. The action was great, and the really fascinating thing about the movie that occurred to me right before I sat down to watch it is this is the first time, to my knowledge, this is the first time they've ever known going into a movie that Bond is not coming back. That we're not going to have this actor coming back as James Bond. Because think about it, every time they do a Bond, they change Bonds. It's usually like, okay, well, we expect the guy's going to come back, but he decides he doesn't want to do it, so we got to find a new guy. It's usually what happens. This case is like, so there's a theme of finality that you can kind of feel throughout the movie that kind of feels kind of cool, So it's going to be interesting seeing where they go next because they are doing more. They are going to find a new Bond eventually, as they tend to do. So so it was really good.
all right. So last night in Soho, of course, this is the new Edgar Wright movie. Dragon. I don't know. This one really. It's divisive for sure, and I can see why it's divisive. I will say that, like, I think Thomasin McKenzie absolutely, like, she's the lead, and she is just, like, the thing that just totally carries the movie for me from a character perspective. She's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but she's adorable, and I love her character, and her character is super relatable. Unfortunately, I feel like where a lot of people are coming down on this thing is that it doesn't have the usual Edgar Wright ensemble, like a Scott Pilgrim or a Shaun of the Dead would. But I don't know. I feel like some of the characters are good enough. What this does have though is it's got style. It's got style to spare. The 1960s sequences are freaking wonderful. I love the way that this movie uses mirrors. And honestly, as a horror movie, I've heard nothing but like bad things about the third act. Like people really say that it falls apart in the third act. And Dragon, I will say there's an epilogue in this where it's like, okay, that's kind of tied together a little too easily, man. But there's a twist at the end of the third act where I'm surprised people aren't saying that it's a like. I thought it was a genuinely really good twist. I won't tell you what it is, but I was very caught up in it in the moment. I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. That kind of ties everything together. That ties all the themes together in a good way. I will say, I think as far as the character writing goes, there is this love interest that Thomasin McKenzie has. Very clearly, probably could have been written out of the movie. He doesn't really do much as far as the plot goes, except be concerned for Thomasin McKenzie. But I like the actor anyways, just because he was giving me young Richard Ayoade vibes. So I'm kind of along for the ride on that. And by the way, Richard Ayoade, kind of a person I'm surprised Edgar Wright has not worked with, as far as I know. Seems like he'd fit right into the Edgar Wright ensemble, but I digress.
That is surprising. He does seem up his alley.
But Dragon, as far as style goes, I mean, this thing it's oozing in atmosphere. It's just absolutely dripping in atmosphere. I don't know, like when I walked out of it, I was like, okay, that might be my favorite Edgar Wright movie, just because I feel like thematically and as far as atmosphere goes, it's a lot more substantial than anything else he's ever done. I got to admit, as far as like, the writing and the character work goes, it's probably on the lower end of what he's done. It's certainly no Scott Pilgrim as far as an ensemble goes. But I don't know. I'm still leaning towards it being at least like in the upper echelon of his work. I really am, just because it's super ambitious. Like I said, it's oozing with style. It's oozing with ambition. And Thomasin McKenzie, it's kind of like an inverse of what Edgar Wright usually does, where it's like, like the ensemble isn't great. Although I will say that Terrence Stamp does show up and he has a pretty good role. So he was fun. But Thomasin McKenzie Dragon, she does so much heavy lifting that I honestly I don't really care that much that the ensemble as a whole isn't great. Just because she's like one of the few horror movie protagonists where it's like I am with this girl to make it out of the movie. It's like I am completely and totally like rooting for her, and that's rare with a horror movie. So yeah. Overall, I definitely say this was a success. I will say that the three big movies for me this month that were from some of my favorite directors, I loved all three of them, but I also don't think that they're overall the director's best work. But I think they have the potential to be among the director's best work. And a couple things were tweaked. So it was a really good month to start the Oscar season with, but I don't think any of these movies are going to wind up as my top film of the year by any means. But still, I'm very excited going forward into the year. All right, next up.
Okay, Injustice. So this is the animated adaptation of the Injustice Gods Among Us. Yeah, so this you're probably wondering, hey, why didn't we try and cover the Injustice animated movie? There's a bit of a reason.
This wasn't good.
Well, it's a mixed bag, Tiki. I like parts of it. I really do. It's just there are problems. It's so I was looking very forward to this because I love so that's the thing. So you had the game, which then more importantly brought about this wonderful line of tie-in comics. Like they say, basically it's did like 5 years worth of stories. Year 1, year 2, year 3. It's like almost like seasons of the story for like for 5 like 5 installments. And Tom Taylor wrote them, and they were great. And they basically detailed like why the heck things went wrong in the game to necessitate like, okay, why do we have a fighting game? So the story was great on that. So I was looking very forward to this being adapted. And again, the core story opens exactly the same, very strongly, where your premise is, Joker has tricked Superman into killing a pregnant Lois, and also nuclear. It sets off a nuclear bomb on Metropolis, so it destroys Metropolis in one foul swoop. Superman snaps and kills him. And this is like Tiki, the one of 3 times ever you only ever do evil Superman. Like this is the one of the 3 times. Everything else is like, we don't need it. Snyder, listen, we don't need evil Superman. Okay, just the Injustice Superman is the best version of that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it starts off like, okay, so we're doing kind of like an aggressive version of Superman 4 Quest for Peace, where, okay, so he's enforcing peace firmly across the globe. Like, okay, no more nuclear weapons, stop shooting at each other, a little like Red Sun, which is the other of the 3 Supermen. Anyway, so it's just the slippery slope becomes a bigger and bigger by as it goes along, where he just gets a little bit more out of hand. Like he literally kills like a nightclub full of kids because they're worshiping the Joker, and it's like, come on, that's out of character. That's a little, I don't buy that at all. So the runtime did not help this movie at all. Where, okay, so we have at least 5 years worth of story and a video game we could tell. Okay, that's a little much, but even at a minimum, you have at least 2 to 3 movies you could tell. So the runtime, we're going to try and tell all of that, or at least the best parts of that, in one movie. That's going to cut down your characterization time, unfortunately. And beyond that, I wasn't crazy about the voice cast, which Tiki is something I've never really had like as a big problem with any of these before, where like the voices were eerily off. Like Anson Mount was not a great Batman. Not the worst. I don't know if he's the worst or not, but he was not a great Batman. Also, what really bugged me is I was looking forward to Kevin Pollak. They got Kevin Pollak as the Joker, which I was excited by. It's like, hey, I could see him as a Joker, but the voice direction was all sorts of off. Like, hey, Kevin, can you get really super creepy clown on us here? Like, just play it really creepy. And he did, to the point where, like, well, that doesn't sound at all like Kevin Pollak would play the Joker. This doesn't, like, So, that bothers me. And basically, they gave it, like, a definitive ending of, like, hey, this part 1 story, we're just gonna basically forget the game, forget any of that stuff. Literally, we're gonna show you what the ends of the whole story is in this one movie, where clearly, we could just go on with this. So
it'd be like if Dune like fast forwarded like the last 10 minutes. We're like, hey, by the way, this happens. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, like, to its credit, I mean, it tells pretty much, okay, so if you want to just tell, like, the first year of that story, that's perfectly fine, but, just leave it open-ended. Don't just, like, okay, and here's the ending of the game. It's like, what? So that's, it's unfortunate. It's like, if you're doing all this, if you're fitting all of this into one movie, what's the point? Okay, what's the point of, like, telling, like, the story that really kind of gets into, like, the guts of what leads to that game? So it cut corners, and I think it shows in the story department. But it had moments that I think were well adapted. It didn't justify itself. So it's unfortunate, because I was looking forward to it. But it's
all right.
It's what it is. I doubt they're doing sequels, given they had the ending at the end there. So yeah.
Okay, did you get around to Dune?
No, I did not.
Okay, so yeah, remember that debate we were having about, like, oh, why do you need to see it in theaters? It's on HBO Max.
Well, not aggressively a debate, but it was like more of a conversation. Yes.
Dragon, I can't imagine this playing as well in theaters. I mean, this is basically like a more eloquent version of Avatar, where it's like the plot is like technically more interesting and the character is more compelling than Avatar. But it's still a situation where it's like I can't ever see myself like sitting down and being as engrossed in this at home as I was in the theater. That being said, the theater experience for this was something special. I mean, oh my God, I've never been so truly immersed in a fantasy world. I mean, the comparisons are true, maybe since Lord of the Rings. Like, it really is that transformative. It's very much just like, I feel like this movie very much does for sci-fi what Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings did for fantasy, in terms of, like, it both grounds it in a sense of realism, but also just explodes in the sense of scale. I mean, the scale of this thing is just absolutely off the charts. You really just get such an appreciation for just the vastness. I mean, like, the world building in this just puts Disney Star Wars to absolute shame, Dragon. It really does. It shits all over Disney Star Wars as far as how well defined these planets are. I will say, as someone who's not really familiar with the books, like once upon a time I tried.
Well, did you see the original movie though?
No, I did not. No.
Okay.
I went into this pretty much completely fresh, and I'm sure there's elements of this where it's like I would like understand it better if I was a fan of the source material. That being said, I also appreciate the fact that, like, it adapts the source material in a way where it's like, this is very much more of an experience than it is a story. Like, it very much puts you in the shoes of the characters, and you're seeing, like, through their point of view. Like, it could almost be like, this is going to be a weird comparison. I don't really mean this literally, but it's almost as immersive as like a found footage movie, just the way it's shot, like kind of like on eye level with everything. basically kind of like what Gareth Edwards goes for, but always fails at, that sort of like eye level point of view. So yeah, I mean, it's a great. I feel like as far as casting goes, it's pretty much perfect. Josh Brolin is a big standout. Jason Momoa is super likable, probably a more well-rounded character than Aquaman, but still very much kind of like in that Aquaman mold. Javier Bardem, he's not in much of it, but he very much is tantalizing for a sequel. I really want to see more of his character. And I mean, like I said, just the real building in this thing is absolutely off the charts. It's like, I love how it's so visual. It's like nothing is really explained to you, but I don't really think it needs to be. I really think it just kind of comes together. And it's like, for those of you who, who want to know the finer details, like that, that can be, you can look it up. You know what I mean? You can look it up in the, on the wiki. It's like there are details that you can find, but it's still just, I don't know. I really thought it was, it just came together. All right.
Well,
sorry,
tell
I'm
me
kind of rambling there at the end.
Here's what I want you to do, Tiki. If you rewatch it on HBO Max, that's what I really want to know, if it holds up or not. Because I mean, if you're telling me like, because I know Dennis Villeneuve, or I'm butchering his last name. Villeneuve. Thank you. Villeneuve. I watched one of his movies before, and it did not grab me at all. And
which one?
Blade Runner 2049 or is it 20?
Have you seen Prisoners?
Oh, that was him?
Yeah, that was him. Yeah.
Well, okay, did a great job with Prisoners, but I'm saying
this is more in the vein of Blade Runner 2039. Although I think it's got a more compelling plot, and it's got more forward momentum than Blade Runner 2049. I'll give it that much. It's got, like, I feel like the sandworms, for example. I don't want to give away anything too much that happens with them, but they're an iconic part of the book, of course. And Dragon, the way they realize them on film, it's very Jaws-like. It's much less about what you see of the sandworms and more about the implications of them.
Well, but here's what I'm curious about. I'm curious if it would hold up. I'd seen that you've seen it on the big screen. If it holds up equally as well, or at least still holds up, or if they want to see how much difference there is seeing it on the home front. Because
Dragon, that's the thing. I think it makes a substantial difference. I really do, just because the scale of it is so big.
But don't you think it's kind of a bad omen, though, of like, if it only holds up as well in theaters versus like if the movie doesn't hold up as well when you just watch it anywhere else, like, just watch it on the small screen? Like,
and that's why it's not my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie, and it's not my favorite movie of the month, but I still had a really great time with it. It was still a super immersive in theater experience. And I mean, unlike Avatar, it had kind of like the cast and the writing to back it up.
Well,
I mean, look, I don't want to say it's going to be as good of an experience at home, because it's not going to be. But I mean, Lord of the Rings isn't as good of an experience at home. But I still rewatch the Lord of the Rings movies all the time. So.
Well, I'm glad you got to see it in theaters.
All right.
Okay, let me tell you about The Guilty.
Terrible title, but the premise intrigues me.
Yeah, I think you'd really get a kick out of this, Tiki.
I probably would.
So this is based off is a remake of a Dutch. Oh, sorry, not. I don't know why I keep going to Dutch. It's a remake of a Danish movie. It feels very much like a play. It feels like almost like not a one-man show, but like a very it feels very something you could easily do on the stage. It's very much like you don't go anywhere. You're in like one location for the whole movie. And you only have like a few cutaways that you don't go anywhere in these cutaways. You just kind of set it like, okay, we're seeing a car drive randomly. That's about it. It's as far as we ever go with it in terms of the visual. So so basically the premise is Jake Gyllenhaal is a cop who's on modified assignment because he was like a shooting, and he's going to have a hearing the next morning. So it's a 24-hour cycle of this movie. He's basically on like the night shift as a 911 operator while he's on modified assignment, which is like a new promotion the LAPD's been doing, at least for the purposes of this film. So basically he's a guy who's like, he's getting his 911 operator hours in, while he's kind of being punished in a sense. And he's nervous about how the hearing is going to go because he has thoughts on the matter. So regardless, this is an impressive exploration of how helpless the 911 operators must feel.
Uh-huh.
Because it's like all the action, Tiki, and this is what's amazing. All the action is performance and theater of the mind from the
It's like phone
descriptions, and
booth, right? That'd be a good comparison.
it would be. And I tried to get that in, but we were kind of low on the catch up, so I didn't really go out to get it in there. So anyway, yeah, this is all about, again, it's all about the performance and just like how it's like the picture is like crystal clear in your mind with how powerful and palpable. And the movie is so ridiculously tense and palpable, Tiki, with basically Gyllenhaal as this cop who's basically he gets on a phone call with this mother, and he's basically trying to talk her out of a very tense situation while she's being taken hostage by an abusive husband. And then he's like calling the daughter at home and trying to calm her down, make sure she's safe. And he's like he's just doing as much as he possibly can, going the extra mile from this helpless position. Had a really good director on this. He had Antoine Fuqua. He the guy who did Training Day.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, so they called in some favors between him and Gyllenhaal and Prisoners as well. So like all the voice, the only main actor you have like on camera is Jake Gyllenhaal. There are a few other 911 operators and like a boss, but you have a lot of famous people calling in on the other side of the phones. Like they pulled a Frasier, Tiki. It's like you have all the cameos on the phone. You had Paul Dano. You got Ethan Hawke. You got Bill Burr. It's like a lot of familiar voices.
Burr, nice.
Yeah. So it's.
Have you ever seen Buried?
No, that's the one with Ryan Reynolds, right?
Yes.
No, I haven't. I've been tempted, but I haven't watched it.
I mean, I think you'd enjoy it if you enjoy this, and it's got your boy in it. So.
I know. I'm aware. The temptation exists. Here's the thing that you would really enjoy, Tiki. You love a good runner.
Yeah, sure.
Good runner. So he's asthmatic. So Gyllenhaal's character is asthmatic, and basically the tension is he's supposed to be taking a whiff of like a hit off the inhaler, but he's so wrapped up in things in this 24 hours. Like it's like he doesn't. I don't think he takes it until the end, really. So it's really, because again, you can see the stress manifest on Gyllenhaal. I
remember Signs used asthma to a really good, as really good suspense.
I think it's used really well here. I mean, you feel like the 24 hours go by, it's within the 24 hours go by. There's a really surprising twist. I don't know how you feel about it, but there is a twist in this film. But it seems up your alley. Very much kind of like something made for the stage, kind of captured as a film.
Cool. Okay, what's next?
All right, next is The French Dispatch.
Okay, yeah, this is the most recent movie that I saw because I just saw it a few hours ago. Dragon, this is. Do you know anything about how this film's structured?
It's a Wes Anderson film, right?
Well, yes.
It's about it.
Okay.
That's all I got.
It's got a super interesting structure to it because it's basically like a traditional Wes Anderson film mixed with an anthology. So essentially the idea is that the French Dispatch is it's an American newspaper that's stationed in France that's essentially like it delivers like foreign stories, to a small town in Kansas. And so that's kind of the hook of it, right? It's like a very simple town in Kansas that's getting these, these really cultured stories from the middle of France, and the culture of this fictional French town, which is literally just called Ennui.
Wait, is it ennui or is it ennui?
Well, it's ennui, yeah.
Yeah, like kidding. It's like this. It's the depressed baguette.
Exactly. So, Dragon, here's the great thing about this film is that it starts with Bill Murray's character, who's the editor-in-chief. He dies. That's a catalyst.
Wait. And how fast did he die?
Movie, what?
How fast did he die in the movie?
Like immediately.
Bill Murray keeps getting out of these movies really quick. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I was hoping that he's in this movie a little bit more than he's been. Like it's not like a cameo like it was in Grand Budapest Hotel, but I was hoping for more of him. But his character in this movie is kind of elusive, though. It's kind of like a Walt Disney.
Well, I
in a
mean,
way.
it's on brand for Wes Anderson because he uses it more in a cameo thing in recent years.
I mean, yes, but early in Wes Anderson's career, he was like a big leading man and stuff like Rushmore and and Life Aquatic. So I'd like to see another leading performance from him in a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the last Murray starring thing was that thing with Rashida Jones recently in the zombie movie with Adam Driver. I think it's the last starring thing he's really had.
Oh my god, yeah, that zombie movie with Adam Driver. Jesus, that movie was weird. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, go on. Yes, so after Murray passes.
So essentially the idea of the movie is that in Murray's will, the newspaper is not going to continue after after he's dead. So they make one final issue, and the final issue is essentially a collection of the best stories that they've written over the course of the publication. So Dragon, the whole movie is the framing device literally is like you're reading this final issue of the French Dispatch. And I love that about the movie. But at the same time, it kind of limits the movie as far as the connection that the characters have and, the ensemble quality of it all. It very much does feel like, so essentially you have an obituary, which is kind of like the, building up Murray's character. Then my personal favorite, like it's a pretty short sequence compared to the other sequences, but it's wonderful. Owen Wilson plays a guy who's based in real life. Like all these reporter characters are kind of like amalgamations of New Yorker reporters. Like the whole film kind of is based around the New Yorker in a lot of ways. But Owen Wilson plays this guy who's he's kind of like a travel columnist. And he's taking you on a day in the life of Ennui, the city. And he's on a bicycle the whole time. And oh my God, it's like Wilson's charm is just an overload, Dragon. I mean, he's carrying that Mobius energy and he's running with it, man.
If only they gave him a jet ski.
No.
See, now you know what's going to happen at some point. Someone's going to like go through all the Owen Wilson movies and just see if has he ridden a jet ski in any of the movies.
But so anyways, after the little travelogue, which is essentially the obituary introduces us to the Bill Murray character, and then the travelogue introduces us to the setting. And then the three main stories, I'm not going to bore you with the details of each of the three stories, but they're all kind of like individual vignettes. So you have not Javier Bardem. Benicio del Toro is the lead in one of them. And then Timothy Chalamet, who is honestly a real standout in this film. I mean, he fits right. This is his first Wes Anderson film, and he fits right in. I mean, he fits like a glove into the Wes Anderson ensemble. And then the last one I will highlight for you, Dragon, because it was my personal favorite one. And it has Jeffrey Wright in my favorite Jeffrey Wright performance thus far, where he plays a very unconventional food critic who, that cliche of like a food critic who it's like, when you read their writing, it's almost like too good of a writing for a food critic. Like he kind of plays like Anton Ego if Anton Ego wasn't a snob. You know what I mean?
I see.
And so essentially his whole article is about a dinner date that goes terribly wrong because there's like a hostage situation with the guy's kid. The guy that he's at the guy's house, and the guy's kid gets kidnapped, and there's a whole like hostage situation that goes on. But what I really love about it is that in the background is this cop character who's also a chef, and the whole thing is kind of like a report on the origins of the firemen slash cop meal, like the firehouse pancakes and the cop banquets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was super charming. How it's like the whole idea of the piece is that Jeffrey Wright, he's weaving this big tale of the hostage situation, but in the background it's kind of just like this super simple like, and that kids is how the police department got associated with these big meals. But Jeffrey Wright, I don't know. It's like he's just unbelievably charming in this. Just
also Jeffrey Wright he's in No Time to Die.
Oh, nice.
And it's a good role too. It's a brief role. It's a good role.
My one thing with the French Dispatch is that I wish that the individual journalists, like each journalist who writes each of the pieces, they're like a role in the movie. So Francis McDormand has like it's like kind of like it's not really a sexual affair, it's more of a kind of like an affair of the minds with Timothy Chalamet, which is really funny. I wish that these characters interacted more with each other. There's a final scene in the movie where they're kind of like coming together to pay respects to the Bill Murray character. And I'm like, oh man, like, these characters really bounce off of each other. Like, I really wish that, they actually had like some time to kind of like develop the relationships between all of them. But I will say that, like, as a movie, I think it's super unique that it literally feels like you're reading like a high-end magazine, like the framing device is really, really unique. Like I've never seen an anthology film done in quite this way before. So I will say, Dragon, it's not my all-time favorite Wes Anderson film. I'd probably it's in my top 5 though. It's in my top 5. I would say it's in the upper half of Wes Anderson. It's not quite as good as like a Moonrise Kingdom or a Grand Budapest, but I mean, it's up there. It really is, and it's something different. It's something unique, and it's like I just think that Wes Anderson he keeps topping himself visually every movie. Like, and this is no exception. I mean, I thought that Grand Budapest was going to be the peak of Wes Anderson style, and this just goes above and beyond it still. So, yeah, really great stuff. So I got to point out the funniest role in the movie is Adrian Brody is like a super duper snobby art snob, like art critic. He's delightful, Dragon. Oh my God. He has some moments that are just absolutely laugh out loud. All right. So yeah, French Dispatch. I would say out of the 3 big ones this month, this was probably like I said, it still has some issues. I wish it was more of an ensemble than it was, but I feel like that's probably, it's kind of like, it works so well as a framing device. And if you have the ensemble piece, then then the framing device kind of falls apart. So, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. But I do think out of the 3 big tent poles of this month, this was the one that all 3 of them stuck to landing for me, but this is probably the one that stuck to landing the most.
Okay. All right. Okay, for me, Army of Thieves.
Now, it was totally under my radar, man. Like, because this was a great character in Army of the Dead, and I kind of heard he was getting a spinoff, but Dragon, until you put it on your list, I had no idea this was a thing or it was out already.
Yeah, it's on Netflix because that's where
I know. I was very surprised. I was like, "Oh shit! I'll have to check it out."
Yeah. Remind me, how did you feel about Army of the Dead?
I'm mixed on it. Do you remember? I think the best part about it was easily the opening credits, which I think are like probably the best scene that Zack Snyder has ever directed.
Right.
I think some of the characters were really good, including Dieter. I thought Dieter was definitely a standout.
Okay.
But I feel like the movie really falls apart by the 3rd act, unfortunately.
No, you're not wrong at all. I think as I recall, I think we were pretty simpatical on those things. Yeah, so Army of Thieves. Way better than I expected it was going to be. So yeah, of course, this is the prequel on our safecracker, Ludwig Dieter, or as we find out, he kind of has like a Jimmy McGill kind of Saul Goodman thing going on with the name. So he starts off as Sebastian something or other. Anyway, yeah. So here's the cool thing, Tiki. I don't know if you know about this. The actor who plays Ludwig, he directed this, and he did a great job with it. Yeah. So yeah, this guy, he was pretty much my favorite character from Army of the Dead. I really liked that character, so I was interested in this, and I was wondering if I was gonna have time to fit it in this month, and I did. And I was like, yeah, just these, just this really likable guys making like these Star movies, like making these YouTube videos on safe cracking and like the history of safe cracking, and he's just very passionate about what he does, and he kind of gets roped into a kind of a heist. It's really fun. Yeah, I really liked it as a heist movie. You have he's on kind of this team. Everyone's I think everyone's pretty memorable amongst the team. You have Gwen, who's like the girl who recruits him. You have Karina, who I thought was the most interesting. She has this flashback where we see she's the hacker. She's like the super intelligent hacker of the group. That's how they get past the security measures and stuff. And she had like you're gonna love this. She One of the big claims to fame that she has is that she had this nerdy brother, and she did something really nice for him as a kid because it was pretty much like the two of them growing up. And she's the one who leaked Pirates of the Caribbean too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of it's a cute little joke. So anyway, yeah. And then you have like Rolf the driver and Brad Cage. So Brad Cage, as you can probably guess, very inspired by Nick Cage. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'd recommend this, especially if you like this character in Army of the Dead. You love him here. I really think so. He was a lot of fun. He was very endearing, and it was a nice arc. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
Right. Okay, that brings us to Dear Evan Hansen.
I'm not even in the mood to talk about this movie, honestly. I pirated it just because it felt like it's so bad it's good watch, and I don't know. Can we just skip this? I'm sorry.
Okay. What about Antlers?
Yeah, I saw that on Halloween. Really good premise, really good setup. Just didn't vibe with me overall. The ending was weak. I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm distracted by something right now.
Right. Okay, so that brings us to catch up. I'll start us off. Okay. Let me tell you about Britney versus Spears. So this was the Brittany Murphy documentary that got me kind of like thinking about what if we re-examine some of these? It's another Britney documentary. Why not? And this was hyped up by Kevin Smith. He kind of brought up this thing, and I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something worth looking into here. Where I've heard about this whole this free Britney conservatorship thing, and I had no idea what it was about. And so I checked out the doc on Netflix on it, and it's quite the interesting watch for sure. I do need to watch it again because I think I might have missed some stuff on it, but it was. The premise is very interesting. It's the idea, growing up, we kind of see like the rise of Britney Spears' career, and what I like the documentary keys in on is like, we always kind of wrote her off when she did all the crazy stuff, and some of what we're kind of learning, especially in kind of these days, is like, what, maybe we had a rush to judgment. Maybe we judged things a little harsher than we should have. So I went. So this documentary kind of re-examines that. Well, yeah, okay, so those crazy things were brought on by something, and she's kind of trapped within those crazy things because her father has this conservatorship on her, basically meaning she has no say in like how she spends her money and how she does this, and she's got to be watched by people, and it's all sorts of medieval, twisted sorts of stuff. So it kind of the documentary apparently made headway in helping with the whole Free Britney thing. So that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And about the whole like media coverage of like how media covers a life and kind of like presents all this darning evidence and everything, and how it's the nail in the coffin. So yeah, it was something worth looking into again. I'm not sure how it holds up until that rewatch, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Dragon, like, can we just wrap this up? I'm sorry. It's something. I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, let me shout out some of the stuff I watched then, real quick. Okay, so beyond that, I watched Gods and Monsters for Halloween, the James Whale biopic was quite good. And there was Natural Born Killers, the director's cut by Oliver Stone. That was watched that for the whole carnage of it all with Woody Harrelson. Wacky as all get out. Third act really delivered. Saw Holly Rock a Bye Bye because I loved I Yabba Dabba Doo, the the Flintstones movie. This is the sequel to it. A lot of nostalgia for that. And lastly, I finally got a chance to watch The Running Man on HBO Max, which did not live up to which I was hoping would deliver more. I was hoping for more of a Total Recall. Was not the case. And that's the game, folks. That's the ball game.
I'll quickly shout out my stuff, Dragon. I'm sorry. I got a very distressing text message. I'm sorry. I don't want to get into detail about it, but
well, don't get into details. Just shout out yourself.
Okay, so Hellfest, very good premise of like kind of like a grown-up version of Horrorland from Goosebumps, where it's like, the idea is essentially it's like a slasher movie mixed with a horror theme park. It's just not very well executed.
Okay.
Hush is about a death author. It kind of has some of the same sort of tropes as A Quiet Place, and I can't do this. I'm sorry. Just let.
All right, and the last one was My Stepbrother is a Vampire,
which is fun. I'm
okay.
Sorry.
All right, let me. I guess I'll wrap it up then. All right, so
Best and worst. Best and worst.
Best and worst. Okay. Best, probably No Time to Die. Probably No Time to Die. Worst, I'm gonna say is it's The Running Man. I guess The Running Man.
Okay. Best is going to be The French Dispatch. Worst, oh god, I mean, Hellfest wasn't great. I don't know. I honestly think the biggest letdown was The Many Saints of Newark, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you do the outro for me?
Yeah, thanks to that guy and Claude Coringa for dropping on by, and folks, we've waxed on long enough. It's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our Memoirs.